Oh, I'm so sorry. Yo, I'm so sorry. Wait a minute, I thought I pressed this button. Which one was it? Hmm. Oh, shit. Okay. Yo, it's too much, honey. Thank you, sweetheart. I'm like, 'cause I don't hear it in my headphones. Do y'all still hear the music? Oh my god. Alright. Yo, they still playing the music, like, get to it. So, I'm trying to think. Oh, I know what I have to do. Alright, let me share again, sorry. To mute that screen. Okay, you don't hear any music now. Oh my god. Yo, y'all was hearing music the whole time. I'm so sorry. It's so early for this shit. Still playing music. Your voice going in and out. Hmm, I don't know. Let me see. I don't know. Testing, testing, testing. I don't know. Is that Brother Marcel on the screen? Yes. I don't know. I don't know. Let me testing, 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 testing. Alright, I think that sounds better. Let me see if they're ready. No! Girl, I'm like, "What the" yo, like, come on. Like, stop with the music. Stop with the music and get to it. Damn. Somebody put in the chat, "Oh, y'all jamming." Like, dude, and get to it. What is it? No, I don't know. Never mind my voice right now, because 'cause I'm trying to see when are they gonna start this thing. Damn, about
PTR outfit. for the day. And it's our stage attire for this show. So if you would like, you can definitely grab onto that free PTR. Free outfit for this space. And today we will be having the last debate of 2023. When we started the debates, it was a beautiful beginning. It was so many things that we were putting together, and it has been evolving because the goal is to not just discuss and debate issues that affect us, but to figure out ways that we can continue to not just evolve, but um, to exceed every single thing, all of these barriers that have been placed before us. So I want to give a big shout out to everybody that has been putting in work, whether it's online or outside in these streets, because it's not easy. This is a free thing that we do in the midst of all of the other things that we go through. So I want to send a huge shout out to the people. I also want to say thank you to everyone who have participated in the Black American debates this year. And we have so much in store for you next year. Thank you guys again. I want to say welcome to the third edition of the Black American Debates. This will be huge because we are streaming live on every platform, every social media platform that exists that we deal with the most anyway. We get from Facebook to Twitter to fan base to Clubhouse to YouTube. We're everywhere because this message has to get to the ears of our people. Saying that, I want to welcome my amazing co-host who absolutely helps me so much with these spaces. Um, um, he as soon as I called him up, I said, "Look, brother, this is the vision." He kind of jumped in and said, "Whatever you need," and it. He's been adding to this and helping to evolve it. So thank you. Big shout out to Black Empower, my co-host, aka the moderator of this space. And we actually have a few other folk that's here. I have Net, who is my fact checker for the day. She will be making sure that all of the information that's provided is fact checked. We always want to do that to keep the information consistent and making sure that we're getting the right message to the people. And also they add to our fact checkers add to the context of the conversation. So I'm excited about that. And we're about to get started. So I just wanted to let my co-host say hey to everybody. And then we're gonna actually I'm gonna highlight two black owned platforms that have been adding so much to the community. And then we're going to go to our amazing Cash, who's going to drop some numbers for us for the day. And then we're going to jump into this amazing debate with Marcel and Cam, the debate that everybody has been waiting for. So, on that note, what's good, Mr. Black and Power? Welcome to the space.
Hey, good morning, family. Good morning. Thank you for that introduction, Mr. Zell. Also, thank you and welcome to the debaters, Cam Howard and Greg Marcel Dixon. Also, a huge shout out to the listeners, the speakers up top. This is going to be a great debate about a very important topic affecting generations of Black Americans. Through these debates, hopefully we can garner more galvanizing conversations that will unite us under one message about reparations for Black America. So I'm ready to get it started.
All right, all right. Thank you so very much. And next, I want to give, because our sister is asleep, she works the night shift. MF Kush has been raising awareness to Black owned businesses across this platform. I want to send a special shout out to that sister because it is very important that we pour into those businesses. We talk about how we need to support each other. We have what it takes. We have Elo Puppet out here with diapers for babies, all the way down to body oils with JD, who has my skin shining. Okay, JD from the DMV. If you want the best coconut oil, this sister is amazing. When I tell you my skin is popping, it glows. Because I've been using her products for the last 3 months. It's amazing, guys. So definitely reach out to her and so many others who are doing amazing things. I do have on the stage Oh, and I also want to make sure that you guys are going to attending our sister MF Kush spaces, because she actually has that up close and personal conversation with Black business owners. I think this is very important. Even my platform itself started specifically for Black owned businesses. That's what Black Table Conversations was about and still is. We're evolving. That's my platform that you'll see it more on Instagram and YouTube. But if you go to missgiselle.com, you can access all of those interviews that I've done with Black business owners, authors, music artists, and we are continuing to evolve. Our new season actually starts next month, so that's going to be huge. And also, it's good to just support these businesses, whether it's a book, whether it's products. Some people are getting in touch with these Black owned supermarkets. That's a beautiful thing, because now we're creating an economy, a thriving economy. Let's pour into each other. So again, I am so proud of what our sister MF Kush is doing. If you do not follow her, please follow her, and please attend those spaces. If you don't can't make it, listen to the replay and start pouring into these businesses that she's being able to bring to the table. Saying that, I am going to post her space in my chat. And so, saying that, I'm going to go to my brother Accumulate Jake, and who I was just with this morning. We be working early. I start my day early, early. This brother came all the way to Baltimore, and we hit the streets. We hit a youth center, as well as a some of the homeless shelters in Baltimore City this morning, giving out bags, coats, and just making sure that our people are covered for this winter season. And this is the first one, because I'm still doing my Black America. We got you covered. The end of this month. So if you definitely want to join in, I am making a wish list on I'm going to make a wish list on Amazon, so that we can order like we did last year, and we will be feeding and clothing. I want to do 50 people, y'all. If we can feed and clothe 50 people, get those bags to these people. You guys do not understand. When myself and my amazing brother Muko, who is my I love Brother Muko. Him and his family is beautiful. Him and myself and our children were out last year giving out bags to our people and feeding our people. Some of the stories, we came a week too late. Okay. It was so cold the week prior. One of our um one of our brothers on the street, he lost his wife. It was so cold. He was like, 1 minute she was there and then she was gone. They just fell on hard times. They just lost their jobs, and they fell on hard times and didn't have anywhere to stay. So I know how that is. I know everybody knows that story, and we can't save the world, but we're gonna try our best to do whatever we can, right? So especially making sure that our people are right. So we will be doing the Black America We Got You Covered, closing out December like we did last year. And if you're in the DMV, we're having the Black American Effects event on January the 20th. It's going to be on and popping. So I hope to see you there. Tickets are finally on sale. We got a DJ now. Actually, we got two, because that's how gangsta I get with things. So, on that note, I would have passed the mic to my amazing brother, Accumulate Jake, who I just had the pleasure to meet in person finally, and hit the streets with this morning. So, go ahead, Jake. It's on you.
Um, what's going on, everybody? Shout out to Miss G, the host. Shout out to Black Empire, the co-host, and all the other speakers and debaters. Yeah, man, me and Miss G, my children, my niece, my sister, and her husband, represent the Be Jesus community. We did what we said along with Feminine Vibes, and we donated about 15 to 20 bags with coats in them to the youth and the women and men, as well as some tents. And I really just appreciate Miss G meeting me out there, just making sure we get it to our people, because it's really important that we do that. If you haven't heard about us, the Be Jesus Project is the first Black-owned, operated community crypto project on the blockchain. You can verify that. We got members all over the country, all over the globe, that support. We raised over $4,500 to, put coats and cold weather items on the community from DC, Baltimore, We'll be heading to New Jersey and Philly next, and then finally New York to drop off items. Be the change that you want to see by just being active. Like I said, you can follow me if you want to learn. We do crypto 101 over the past 6 weeks, every Tuesday and Saturday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Our final one will be tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So if you want to learn about crypto, which is really important for our people, shoot me a follow, and you can go and look at the recorded spaces where we talk about that. We're just trying to empower. We're trying to educate. We're all about community, and that's all I gotta say. I just really appreciate Miss G giving me the mic. We also have Black Jesus .life or Black Jesus Store .life, where you can go and you can buy some of the merch. Where all proceeds and profits go back to the community. Miss G posted us on her page. You can see on my page. We really doing this. We got the drone racing league. We got the STEM program. We got the food drive. Now we just did the cold weather drive. So, a lot of people may, come on this app and say they're going to do stuff and not follow through. But in our community, we're about following through, and we're about educating our people to the power of this thing called cryptocurrency and crypto assets. So I'll yield the mic there because I know you all want to get to this debate that Ms. G has been planning.
Testing, testing. Let me say something. I'm streaming this from the Real Dana, and I'm streaming this on Judge Joe Brown YouTube channel. I don't give a fuck about Young Dorf. And if yours Young Dorf unsolved, did you send the judge any fucking evidence or information? No. Did you email me the evidence you got so he could review it? No. So he's not investigating Young Dorf case. And nigga, if you got information, where's your lawyer at? Send me the email so I could pass it on to him to review it. Don't talk shit in my chat as if you know what the fuck you talking about somebody else that know more than you. Cortez, none of y'all, Anthony, don't subscribe, don't listen. So don't sit up here and say, oh, he brushed it off. He don't know what the fuck you talking about. He don't know what evidence you so-called have. Email me the evidence, nigga, and I'll send it over to him. And that's the problem with black people. You won't talk shit just because you say, well, we got evidence. Fuck your evidence. So what? Did he see your evidence? No. Just because you said this happened, that means it happened? So do your job if you want him to give you a legal expert opinion on it, and email me whatever evidence you got. Other than that, don't talk shit in my chat. I'm on one today. And it's Mercury retrograde. Don't play with me. Let's continue.
Biden is talking about he's creating he said he don't need a task force, just have a bill for him. He shouldn't have did that because we are too bright of a people. We're going to make sure that bill is created, and then we're going to hold him to his word. But during that process, numbers matter. So of course
I don't fuck you know what I'm talking about.
to kind of evolving when we're talking about specifics when it comes to the reparations, but to cash, who's going to dive into the numbers portion and on a state and federal level on what those reparations should look like. So again, welcome to the space. Oh, also mind you, he is the breakdance. He's a break dancer. He's traveled country and nationwide, across the world actually, break dancing and competing. And actually, he's one of the ones who helped to get break dancing into the Olympics from the things that he did countrywide. I mean, worldwide. So big ups to our brother Cash Gaines. Welcome to the stage, and the mic is yours.
Yeah, peace, Miss Giselle. Real quick, in the interest of time, how much should I set aside? I got 6 points here.
Let's get it done. You got 10
I'm
minutes.
gonna run through them. I appreciate everyone within the sound, especially those eligible for reparations, especially direct cash payments, because that's what I tend to focus on. I know that reparations, even to the title, will be much more comprehensive than just specifically direct cash payments. But I've researched other cash payments from reparations payouts that were underpaid, that were lowballed, and I want to make sure that doesn't happen to our community within this modern justice claim. So that's my purpose and focus in this movement. I'm Black American on both sides of my family, just for context of the conversation. Meaning my father and mother are eligible for reparations, as well as myself, my brothers and sisters, and any of our progeny. The 6 points I wanted to bring to the room, and I've tried to pin some of the links because I tend to just focus on the bills direct and the demand letters that have been created by our communities, especially modern day. But let me start in 2014, where Rosewood, just outside of Gainesville, Florida, standing survivors of the race massacre that happened there in 1924 were paid $150,000 per standing survivor, as well as $67,000 for any of their descendants. But it was relegated to only be payments used for Gainesville College admissions, and only for 4 years. So there's limits on it. In my argument, looking at this uh, uh, reparative justice claim that happened, I believe they were, one, lowballed, and two, it was really just bad negotiation in general. So I wanted to bring that to people's attention before we move on, that cash payouts have happened for race massacres in America. Evanston, Illinois, which I'm sure will come up in the conversation, since 2023, they've updated their quote unquote reparations claim to be direct cash payments of $25,000 instead of the payments being relegated for housing repairs and down payments on houses in the Evanston area. I want to mention it because not only the 25,000 is inconsequential, but I'm not going to tell that to the face of the people who've received those payouts, of which there's 22 so far. But I will mention this: they're generating those funds using the marijuana tax, which unfortunately there's only one dispensary in the whole Evanston area. So it's kind of illegal for them to audit this one company to see what its payouts are. They need multiple businesses there. But I wanted to mention this: Evanston is about to set a standard where any house that is sold over $1 million, a portion of that tax will go into payouts for reparations. In my opinion, this is a checkmate or a form of poetic justice against those who might commit white flight, seeing as how reparations might start to become a part of the Evanston history and conversation. So I just wanted to mention that for Evanston. Now let's get to San Francisco, which I pinned up above. I mentioned San Francisco because their reparations task force was diverse based on the socioeconomic diversity of the Black American community. There's someone who was formerly incarcerated, someone who has experienced discrimination in the workplace, a person who is in the technology industry, with expertise in the field of technological equity, a 14 to 24-year-old, and over 65-year-old. I argue that this is one of the most comprehensive reparations task force that have existed so far, of the 14 that I'm following nationwide, state and county. So I just wanted to start with that. But they're the ones who said the $5 million lump sum per Black American, at least in the San Francisco area, is what they were arguing, as well as 250 years of payments tied to the area median income, meaning that these payments would rise as the incomes in the area rise. Just make it simple for people. They also mentioned debt forgiveness. Our reparations shouldn't go towards paying for credit card loans, student debt, or payday loans. So that's mentioned directly. They also mentioned 250 years of sales tax abatement, retirement services to remove our elders from the labor force, so on and so forth. Right now, the most recent development for this is they, on top of our cash payments, demanded $50 million for an Office of Reparations. The most recent budget, which had them at $4 million, has now been cut to just $2 million for this most recent cycle. And in my understanding, Cheryl Davis, who's in control of this, has mentioned that she's going to prioritize our elderly receiving the cash payouts first. So that would be everyone 70 and up eligible for reparations in San Francisco would receive $25,000 payouts, and that's counting towards the $5 million that's owed to each of them. So I just wanted to mention that. Lastly, I'll mention Oregon as my first 3 points. Oregon, with Senate Bill 619, had set a precedent for cash payments being lifetime payments and six figures, namely $123,000 a year in lifetime payments tax-free. Now, the lifetime part, I'm not going to champion today, although I used to in the past, because San Francisco has now set a standard longer than a lifetime of 250 years. That's multi-generational payouts. And we had a multi-generational harm. So I definitely argue that more than just a lifetime span, of which is, on average 75 years. But Oregon set the precedent, which was copy pasted into San Francisco's, and what I believe should be in whatever a federal reparations claim looks like, of our reparations being tax exempt. Here's the exact sentence: reparations paid under this section and right of the person to an annuity under this section are exempt from garnishment of all state, county, and municipal taxation, except for ORS Chapter 118, and are not subject to execution, garnishment, attachment, or any other bankruptcy or insolvency law, and are unassignable. I just mentioned that because obviously our reparations should be tax exempt. And again, I don't want to be a one-trick pony, but that's what I tend to focus on is the direct cash payments. Now that I've mentioned Rosewood, Evanston, San Francisco, and Oregon, I'll end with these last 2 points, which is the federal claim. Having conversations amongst my own community, which I consider myself a millennial, born in 1988, we're trying to make sure that land is kept as a part of the conversation. Indeed, HR 40 was named after 40 acres and a mule, right? Special Field Order 15, which was updated to HR 29 to hold all 10 of the states that seceded accountable for their treachery against the nation. That was supposed to be split amongst the Black American community, not just the 3 states of South Carolina, Georgia, and Florida. I just wanted to mention that HR 29, if anyone wants to look that up. But at this point, we're just going for 40 acres and a half mil, as well as 10,000 a month for life. That's what we have been telling people that we meet on the street, face to face. Obviously, it's going to be way more than that. Obviously, we're owed more than that. But that seems to be the rallying cry that people around me are suggesting we keep a part of the conversation. That way, 40 acres is right in it with a cash payout as a part of investment for the land. And the 10,000 a month for life is uh, far from needs to be argued as justified. Lastly, let me say this. This is my last point. I'm sorry for being long-winded, but reparations is a comprehensive conversation, even just the direct cash payments. And y'all have heard me mention this before. I have a problem with reparations being tied to closing the racial wealth gap, or indeed us trying to be equal to white folks' wealth with an income over a 10-year lifespan, over a 10-year period. 10 years of income will not close a racial wealth gap or even come close to it because their wealth will continue to rise as we receive these payouts over a 10-year period. I argue that just trying to be equal to white folks is leaving money on the table. There were model minority communities where money was spent in order to make it seem as though we were not harmed economically. And that money is not accounted for when we look at just white wealth in modern day. But that might be a convoluted conversation. I just wanted to make that point. The Japanese, so on and so forth. And then last point. I argue as a reparationist that I'm owed the unpaid wages of my ancestors for multiple generations of work in this country. I'm not arguing that I need to be equal to white folks in modern day, as I said before. The way that you come to the calculation of how much we're owed for unpaid wages, which is my last point, it was calculated that from 1790, which is the first year we can hold America accountable under the Funding Act of 1790, anything before that would be British. And we would have to hold Britain accountable, which we will. The Queen owes me money is my hashtag. But just calculating the 81 to 85 years we were enslaved in America, using the minimum wage at the time or the unskilled labor wage, which was 2 cents, 5 cents, 7 cents, and went up to 8 cents during the Civil War, then back down to 7 cents. Had our ancestors had been paid the minimum wage, which is a low ball, I'll be very clear. Our ancestors were not unskilled laborers. They were artisans, craftsmen, engineers, architects, but don't let me belabor this room. Had they been paid the minimum wage for a 24-hour day's wage, they would be owed at a 3% interest rate in modern day, $18 trillion. But if you put a 6% interest rate on that number, which is, inflation is basic. You're just keeping up with inflation if you put the 3%, 6%. And by the way, this 6% has a precedent because Georgetown University sold 272 of our ancestors back in the 1830s, and there was a 6% interest rate on that deal. Add 6% to the accrued disadvantages, to the lost, to the late fees, to the pain and suffering, we would be owed $151 million per Black American in modern day, or $6.6 quadrillion essentially that the federal government would need to dole out probably over a 25 or 75-year lifespan. That's what I'm carrying. That's what I see when I look in the mirror. And if anyone wants those numbers, I can get them to them. It's an article written called The Wealth Implications of Slavery on those descendants. And I just want to say one more time that this number has not been advocated by those who wrote that article or the economists. They just use it as a thought experiment to say, look at how much money Black Americans would be owed had we have paid them just the minimum wage for a 24-hour day's wage. I'm keeping these numbers alive in modern day as a real figure because we really are owed those figures. It's not a thought experiment to me. With that being said, I thank you guys for leaving me the space to mention all these bills. And please, anyone message me if they need further links or information. Peace and reparations.
Thank you so much, Cash. You are so greatly appreciated. Thank you for those numbers. I wanted to make sure that the numbers were on the forefront of this because numbers matter. So when we hear people throwing out things, we can listen to the replay of this space, and then you can kind of get some context, do your own research, and kind of like in your spaces going forward, kind of debate those amounts and see what we could come up with because it is us that's pushing forward and leading the charge when it comes to this reparations fight. So numbers matter, especially because that's what we're doing it for. Not just the cash, the land, the federal and state protections. All of these things put together is our reparations. That's our claim and our that's our repair. So on that note, we are
And
getting
Miss
ready
Giselle, can I
to
say one
go
more thing?
into.
And Miss
Oh,
Giselle,
go
one
ahead.
more thing.
I'm sorry.
Can I just say
I don't,
this?
I'm sorry. I only have a limited amount of time.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, Miss
Okay.
Giselle, I just want to say one more thing. Like reparations is not ending racism. Thank you.
Yeah, okay. And thank you, Cash. So now we're about to go into the debate that we came for. And thank you, Marcel. Sorry for the delay. We are going into the debates. And right before the debates, and I do this holistically, we do have Lift Every Voice and Sing. That's one thing. And then we're going to go into the first question for the debates between our debaters. And on the back end, Marcel and Cam, you guys can see the order of the debates so that you'll know the flow of everything, and we get ready to get it started. So she means biz. Let's do we're gonna do this because this is our national anthem and we've been doing this since the beginning. So lift every voice and sing, and then we're gonna start the debates.
Lift every voice.
I don't know if that's copyright, so yeah, David is here. And this is the thing. This is why I always say it is important to start on time. Technically, they didn't start to 11:15, 11:20. That's unacceptable. You gotta start on time. You gotta leave the boogaloo, soul train, jigaboo music. Let it play for 5, 10 minutes before the start time. You have to start on time and get to it because everybody has a day. Everybody has a day.
Sing a song.
Man, that was Lift Every Voice, but I don't know. I'm not playing no music because it's copyright. But they play music for like 20 minutes straight. And thank you everybody that's tuning in. As soon as the song is over, don't start that church. Just talk. Yeah, I mean, listen, I like the song with every voice, and actually, it's not. It wasn't just for Black people; it's for America. It was written and composed by a Black person. If you read the lyrics, it's an American anthem. I don't know. I don't know what the fuck is going on with my audio right now. I can't. Like, never mind my audio. Never mind the audio. Just never mind the audio. Never mind the audio. I don't know why. Is it still going in and out? Too much music. Too much music. Too much TV. Too much thing. Too much nigga shit. That really has to stop. Like, come on. All right, here we go.
Thank you. Now, Marcel and Cam, welcome to the space. Thank you guys for taking on this debate and agreeing to tackle these two topics today. And we will be starting with What is the most effective reparations plan for Black America? We'll do it in alphabetical order. So we'll start with Greg Marcel Dixon, and then we'll go to you, Cam. And the order of this opening debate is the order of the opening debate is in the back channel. And Black Empower, you can take over.
Okay. Again, opening debate topic is going to be what is the most effective reparations plan for Black America? You've been sent the time parameters in the chat as far as the phase of the debate goes. So just a reminder that the bell will indicate the 1 minute and the 30-second mark of how much time you have left. So right now, uh, Marcel, this will be your opening statement to that debate question.
Okay. The best opening plan for reparations is one that is based on status. And the reason I give that answer is not because of my own emotional predilection or my own preference. I give that answer because of precedence. So this is not preference, this is precedence. If you look at all the reparations plans that the United States of America has done, especially post civil rights movement, they've all been based on status. None of them have been based on race. So when it came to the intern Japanese, that was done based on their status of people who had previously been put in concentration camps. The Iranian hostages, they received those reparations because of people who had been taken hostage by the Iranians. The people who had received reparations because they were exposed to radiation because of nuclear testing, they received and are still receiving reparations because of their status. The Guamanians, who were victims of atrocities during World War II, they receive reparations not just because they're Guamanians or not because they're Guamanians at all, but because of their status. I can go on and name several other examples, but I think we get the point. Reparations has to be done based on status. So my plan calls for us to get direct cash payments to return the office of Freeman Affairs. Because if you are Black American and you are a descendant of a person who was emancipated by the United States of America, we have a special status under which this government has already done specific policies for us. And that status is freedmen. And I already know there's some people who have a connection where they hear the word freeman. If you don't want to use the term freeman, fine by me. But that is the status we have under which we've already received special policies for us. The government abandoned their vow to us, but that status still lives on, even though the government closed down the Bureau and abandon Reconstruction completely. So my plan is for us to receive our reparations under our status. It calls for direct cash payments to the eligible recipients who are of the freeman status, meaning you are a Black American who is a descendant of a person who has been emancipated and you have been self-identified as Black. That's my plan. Okay, we have our land grants. We have our Black Wall Street initiative. Because one thing America did destroy that often does get a lot of attention are hundreds of thousands, and if not millions, of Black businesses. They have to pay for the ones they destroyed, and they have to pay for the ones they prevented from coming into existence in the first place. Same thing with land. America has stolen 20 million acres, conservatively speaking, of land from the American freedmen. But they have to also answer for the land they prevented us from having, while at the same time, they
On no, you're not finished, Marcel. You had a couple of more seconds. So
okay, I heard
Yeah.
yeah.
No,
I
you
don't.
have 1 minute.
Oh, okay. Sorry. I can't.
it's okay.
I can't remember that. Okay. Anyway, America was giving away $10 trillion worth of land to white Americans mainly under the Homestead Act of 1862. Then they did the Southern Homestead Act, the GI Bill, the Labor Union Act, Social Security Act. So many wealth building programs that specifically went to white Americans. It could have gone to blue Americans. It doesn't matter. But we were discriminated against as freemen America has to answer that as well. And I land there.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Marcel. Go ahead, Black and Power.
All right, thank you for that, Marcel. Cam, same question to you. What is the most effective reparations plan for Black Americans? So again, the bell will indicate you're at the 1 minute mark, and then the next bell will indicate you have 30 seconds left for your opening statement. Yeah, Cam.
Thank you. I kind of put both questions together in my opening statement, and I'll tease it out or a little later as we ask more questions. But the topic of the debate, as I understood it, is what's the best plan for reparations in America, and should it be for all Black people? I spent a considerable amount of time and energy going around the country asserting that the second part of that question, who should get reparations in America, is non-productive, that it does not matter at this point what anyone's answer to that question is. No one will get anything if we don't deal with the first part of the question on how do we get to reparations. Therefore, I will not spend much of my time on that. I will concede that everyone has the right to believe what they choose to believe, as none of our beliefs on that issue has no bearing whatsoever on reality. And the reality is that none of us are going to get anything at the federal level until we find a way to get this country to commit to a plan of reparatory justice for us all. The answer to the first part of the question of what's the best plan centers on specifics. Are we asking what's the best plan to convince the government to act? Or what's the best plan for repair, as my brother began to talk about? Or what's the best plan on distribution of resources, which Brother Cash talked about earlier? What we are asking when we say, what are we asking when we say what's the best and most effective plan? Like in the first instance, asking the wrong question can also just be an exercise of intellectualism at this time. So I would deal with the question on what is the best plan to get this government to act. Unfortunately, in this country, the commission process is a precedent for reparations. Native Americans had a claims commission. Japanese Americans went through the commission process, which Congressman John Conyers attempted to emulate in 1989 until he left office in 2018. And as we know, Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee picked up that mantle and continues it today. So we have dealt with this commission card for reparations in this country. Thinking a reparations bill with money attached before going through the commission's process is probably a non-starter. That is why H.R. 40 has been pushed. However, it cannot be passed in Congress. Reparations is a totally partisan issue. And although it may make it out of the House one day, it would probably never make it out of the Senate. The only way it is even possible is that the Democrats have a 60-40 vote majority in the Senate, a filibuster-proof majority, which is highly unlikely. If we are forced to go the commission route, and we are, the only way to get a commission established is through executive order of the president. At this time, we have the power to make the sitting president, Joe Biden, establish the commission via executive order. The Democratic Party is totally dependent on the Black vote to win in 2024. Black voters are 20% of the Democratic Party base, more than all other people of color combined. These two facts is the foundation of our power. Dems cannot win without a sizable amount of Black vote. Thus, a national effort to trade our vote in the future in 2024 must be based on a reparations commission via executive order now in the present. Building this national campaign, which my organizations have entitled the Earn the Black Vote Campaign, is a credible plan to further the cause of reparations in this country. This cannot be a no reparations, no vote campaign, which is just like saying vote Republican. The current number of dissatisfied voters already spelled defeat for the Democratic Party. Our position is that the only way the party and the president can halt and reverse this dissatisfaction and defection of Black voters is a reparations commission by executive order before the election. This is how they must earn our vote in 2024, and we have the power to make this happen. Thank you.
Okay, thank you both for your opening statements. There'll be a question from the host, and then after the host asks the question, we'll go to Marcel to answer that question, then Cam, and while that is happening, we will take 3 speakers from the listener section to come up and ask questions.
Yes, and that's only going to be three, three speakers. That's it. And that question will be posed to either of the Well, it'll be posted both of the hold on one second. Okay. Never mind. Never mind. We're gonna keep it going. Okay. So with that said, and listening to both of you guys' stance and the plan of action, do you see, would you consider state level, like our fight on a state level, do you think that that can be a basis for the federal level fight? Or do you not want to use either to support either fight? Should we focus on those individually? So again, the question is, do you believe that state level reparations um should be the basis, the foundation to support federal level reparations? Or should they just be dealt with separately?
Do I go first?
Yep.
So if you asked me that just some time ago, I would have definitely said no. We state level reparations does not exist. I still don't believe it should be called reparations because remember, all of the things that have been done to Black Americans in this country were done either because the federal government initiated it or they sanctioned it. So truth be in the resources it will take to repair us as a people definitely and can only come from the federal government. So true reparations only from the federal government. However, the truth of the matter is all politics is local. Now, I hate that expression because sometimes it's abused by people like Kleinbaum. They say all politics is local. They say that this means, well, why are you asking me? I don't got nothing to do with that. No, all of it's connected. And on that same point right there, we absolutely should use the state level initiatives as building up a foundation and infrastructure that we can use to buffer the federal level. We definitely need to be focused on the federal level ultimately, but what I have found out with these state initiatives, Lori from NAASD, I used to be against it. She made a good point. She was like, well, Marcel, let's say they do these things anyway, and we're not at the table. And our people who do show up get fed the misinformation. And that was an excellent point. So, because of that, at the very least, these state level initiatives can be used to help educate our people. And I'm not sure how much time I have left. It's kind of hard to follow what y'all said sometimes. How much time I have left, Mrs. Zell?
Moderator.
You have a minute and a half.
Oh,
One
okay.
minute.
Well, let me continue building. I don't know if this is, I'm not going to rebut what Mr. Howard said, but I do want to say Mr. Howard does make some points. We have to be politically involved, okay? We have to be politically involved on all levels, municipal, state, and federal. And that doesn't mean just working with those who are elected, but we do need to work with those who are elected. We also need to run for office or find candidates who will run for office and support them at all levels as well.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Marcel. And the same question is posed to you, Cam. Um, do you believe that state level reparations should be the basis or the foundation of our federal reparations claim? Or should we focus on these two reparations plans individually?
So thank you for the question. So I've had the dubious honor of writing, crafting the Chicago legislation that was passed. It was the second city after Evanston to pass local reparations. I had the distinction of writing the Illinois legislation, which is passed. I had the distinction of being consulted on the New York legislation when it was first introduced, as well as being the lead writer of HR 40, which was adopted in California. So I was the lead writer of the California bill and certainly the lead writer of the HR 40. So I have argued that local reparations, I've always been in support of it from day one, again, being the second city to craft a local reparations initiative. What we did at the federal level with HR 40 and getting these co-sponsors trying to move this bill through Congress was to demonstrate to the president, we always were focusing on the president for the reason I explained, that you cannot get this bill passed in the Senate. But we had to demonstrate that there was political will within the Democratic Party for a reparations bill. Because if you remember, President Obama said it was a non-starter, and it was a non-starter in 2008. But we had to demonstrate that there was political will on behalf of the Democratic Party that reparations was something that the party would endorse. So we got 217 confirmed votes in the House. We got a Senate companion bill introduced, which was hard work getting Cory Booker to introduce that bill in the Senate. We got the Senate Majority Leader to sign on as a co-sponsor. We got 10 of the 21 Senate committee chairs to sign on as a co-sponsor, and almost a dozen other senators to sign on. So we demonstrated to the president that there was political will on behalf of his party in Congress to pass his bill. Now, what occurs now on the local reparations push is to demonstrate, and we have demonstrated with all these local initiatives happening all around the country, over 100 plus local reparations, either city or states. We have demonstrated that there's political will on behalf of the Democratic Party in these local spaces all around the country. So the goal to persuade this president to push the executive order has to come from what we do at the Congress level and what we do at the local level. And we are doing it, and we're winning, and we can't let up.
Excellent. Thank you so much. And there was another question. I'm glad that you guys covered both of those points. And it's good to have those details because the next question is what would those reparation claims actually look like? What would they consist of? Because we've seen several times where it'll be just social services, and we know that that's not reparations. So, realistically, what should we expect on a state atonement level versus a federal level when it comes to reparations?
So states have to work within the tax base. So every state has to work within the base about what they can do. But we were directly deprived of money, economic opportunities. So therefore, the state should be able to do as much as they're willing to do. So if they're able to do direct cash payments, then that need to be able to they need to do it. But of course, it should only go to those who were harmed. Now, see, the problem is with the state level, however, you have a task force in this state, a task force in this town, a task force in this city, and they're all making up different definitions of what reparations means. Like in Rhode Island, they did some reparations. I don't know what it was about, but it includes white people. So you see the issue with the state level, where if you go to the federal level, you get that one definition that can encompass all of us who are of this status where we should receive reparations. It covers all of us, no matter where we are, the whitest town in Idaho to the blackest rural community or county here in South Carolina. But on the federal level, they do not have those same restraints. First of all, the president can do an executive order. Can he do an executive order to do direct cash payments? No. But the president can definitely do an executive order and start a reparations commission. So President Obama is full of it. He could have done an executive order to start a commission on reparations. All the executive order does is take the cabinet, that's one of the agencies of the federal government, and says to them, this is what I want you to work on. So that is something that is not hamstrung by Congress. The second thing, the Democrats have had the majority in the House, the Senate, and they have the presidency, and they have pushed bills forward by getting Republicans on board before. When you are a leader, you have to lead, and you have to go up there and you have to get support for the bill you're trying to push. Also, let's not make this a partisan thing. I know what Mr. Howard is saying, but in the federal level, let's talk about Florida right now. That Florida person in the state house is saying they're against reparations, and they've gotten 12 Democrats to sign on with them. So on the federal level, they are not as hamstrung by money, okay? Where they have no excuse for not doing direct cash payments. The Pentagon just failed its 6th audit, and yet they've given them damn near $1 trillion, and they haven't accounted for $9 to $21 trillion that they just got. Am I done?
30 seconds.
Oh, So the federal level can definitely do the direct cash payments, the agencies that can encompass all 50 to 55 million of our people, whereas the state level is working with a tax level base that restricts them.
Thank you so much, Marcel, for your response. And that same question goes to you, Cam. What should we expect on a state level when it comes to from state atonements to federal levels reparations? What should those reparations look like?
So thank you for the question. And I agree with Brother Marcel that state and local budgets are limited to what they can actually apply to a reparations. We're not going to close the racial wealth gap at the state level uh, or get significant cash payments at the state level if that's what we're looking for. I wrote in Laying the Foundation for Local Reparations, a pamphlet I penned about 3 years ago, that on the state and local levels, really what we're expecting is triage. There's a limited amount of resources and a limited amount of things you can actually do. And so we should focus on what are the most major pressing problems, injuries, harms, et cetera, that we're experiencing in these local spaces at the state and local levels. At the federal level, when I wrote HR 40, HR 40 is designed to study the period of enslavement and determine the continued impact of those crimes committed against our ancestors on current living Black people today, and then craft remedy to address the continued impact from enslavement, from which only people who are descendants of enslaved will receive that remedy. It's also designed to study the period of Jim Crow apartheid and determine what are the continued impact of those crimes committed against our ancestors and some of our parents, and uh, and develop remedies to redress that continued impact. And it's also designed to look at the current errors of crimes that have been committed post apartheid, post Jim Crow, determine its wide range of impact on us living today and how it will continue to impact our progeny in the future, and craft remedies to address that continued impact. So HR 40 is designed to create a master plan of redress for Black Americans. And we have to know, and we have to study to know how intentional the injury is and continues, and what is really necessary to make sure it doesn't continue into future generations. So, the commission will do that. California has attempted to do that. They laid out 14 areas of continued impact and listed over 140 remedies or recommendations. And so the federal commission should do exactly the same, create a master plan of redress for Black Americans, listing all the continued impact from these 3 periods of injury, and then list the actual proposals that are necessary for us to halt and reverse the injury and ensure it doesn't happen or continue on for future generations.
All right, thank you so much, Cam. And we can go to those rebuttals because pretty much you guys are in line to a certain degree. But I do see where Marcella's saying more specifically, like something in the context of no social services level. And that's the point that I wanted to highlight the most. But I do like the points that you made also, Cam. Now we are gonna allow for the rebuttals between the two of you, and we can start with Cam since we started with Marcel the last 2 times.
Um, Second. My focus, and I think our focus, should be on how do we get redress at the federal level while working on redress initiatives at the local level. I always wrote in that pamphlet that the local efforts will allow us to craft proposals that can be uh, built up at a federal level, can be expanded at a federal level, but tested at the local level. It allows us to put together structures to receive local redress or federal redress dollars and to administer the redress. But our goal has to be federal redress. And right now, we have a tremendous amount of power to do so. Um, and that is how I feel that we should be spending most of our time in the movement. Those of us in the local space who are working in the local space have a dual responsibility of local and federal action. You enter this space maybe at the local level, but that does not uh, disavow you from your role and obligation to work for federal redress. And it's the same thing if you're working for federal redress. You still have an obligation if you're in the movement to work at the local level as well. I see that there are three foundational truths that are presented to us at this particular moment, which gives us the power to demand force this president to create and establish an executive order. The first foundational truth is that the Democratic Party is totally dependent on the Black vote to win. And regardless of what my brother stated, this is a partisan issue. I've been working on this issue for 20 years. Prior to that, there's no Republican has ever signed on or co-sponsored a bill at the federal level. This is a partisan issue, and the Democrats are totally dependent on our vote. Secondly, second foundational truth is that we need a commitment by this president before the election on reparatory justice and ending systemic racism and structural racism. And that leads to the third foundational truth is that the only way both of those can happen, that the Democrats get our vote and we get a commitment, is that this president establishes a reparations commission through executive order before the election. We must make him earn our vote. And again, we have the power to do that. Every major publication is touting that Biden or the Democratic Party, if they choose another candidate, which right now 2.9 million Black Democrats are not feeling Biden, which is a huge number. The only way that they can win is with the Black vote. And the only way that they can earn the Black vote, our truth is through executive order for the commission before the election. Thank you.
Hey, Marcel, for the rebuttal.
I feel like Mr. Harris being a little evasive. I wish he would have spoke more about to whom he feels reparations should go. Okay, that was not mentioned and that has not been asked of him. But I really feel Mr. Harris should be asked about to whom does he feel reparations should go? Because I made it very clear about to whom should reparations go, and I made it clear why. Constitutionally speaking, reparations in America has been done based on status, not based on race. And I have not heard Mr. Howard based on whom he feels is eligible for reparations from the American government for chattel slavery and then the subsequent harm that the government did after not paying us the debt for chattel slavery. So it's hard for me to respond when I know that's a big issue in this reparations movement. And I wish he was asked that, but I do want to say I understand what Mr. Howard is saying. He's absolutely right about the fact that the Democrats cannot exist. Hell, can't win. They can't even exist without the Black vote. But it's also the Democrats that from the 1960s, when Black Americans started voting for them by large numbers, the vast majority of us, like 80 to 90%, that they had the House, the Senate, and the presidency, and they could have done reparations right on the heels of the Civil Rights Movement, and they did it. When John Conyers introduced H.R. 40 in the 1980s, the Democrats had in the 90s came around, the Democrats had the House, they had the Senate and the presidency when Bill Clinton was elected. They didn't. When Obama got in, again, didn't. When Biden got in, again, didn't. We keep making excuses about it's a non-starter because they didn't have enough votes. You know how many bills they are able to pass that the Republicans are initially against? And what do? They do what's called politicking. They go through those Republicans, they sit down, they cut deals. They've gotten many unpopular bills that were unpopular with the Republicans through. And there are many bills they put forward that fail, that they keep putting forward until they get it passed. So that's not an excuse. You're right, this is a party issue. They're both parties are aligned against us. And HR 40, they keep blowing the dust off of that to make it seem like it's really for us. HR 40 is flawed. HR 40 any reparations bill should start off with who will be eligible for it in the first place. It should start off with the minimum of our reparations should be direct cash payments a federal agency that's allocated a budget to attend to our needs. HR 40 has none of that. Number three, I will say again, Zal, I agree. We definitely be more involved in politics. A lot of people are sitting around talking, not doing anything. And that includes us going to the federal level. So where Mr. Howard and I probably differ is an area where he has not been asked about to whom does he feel reparations should go. And I feel that really needs to be asked.
All right, and you can rebuttal him also, Cam.
So thank you. I did start off saying who reparations should go to, and it's really determined by the remedy. Again, for remedies proposals designed to remedy enslavement era crimes or the impact from enslavement era crimes will go to only people who have our descendants from people who were enslaved. Remedies that were designed to address the impact of the apartheid era will go to people who were in this country during the apartheid era, which 99% or 98 to 97% will be the same people who were here during the period of enslavement. But you'll have 2-3% of people may have came from the Caribbean who are also affected by apartheid era crimes, a minimum number. And then for the post-apartheid crimes, 1965, what I call this new period of apartheid or neo-apartheid, 1965 to the present, if there's remedies to address this continued impact for police terror, predatory lending, mass incarceration, it will only go to those people who have been injured from these new era of atrocities. That some of them may be of Caribbean descent, some of them may be of African descent. The majority of all reparations is going to go to people who were enslaved, whose ancestors were enslaved in this country. My position, and arguing this position is really secondary to the main position. The main mission is to get a federal redress bill. These type of arguments can be developed or be debated once a commission is stated. That has been my main argument: is that we have these discussions. We shouldn't put these discussions before all of our work toward getting a commission established. The commission process is the process in this country that we've dealt with. If we're going to deal with the federal government, we're not going to just overthrow the government. We had to deal with whatever processes that are allowed that are put before us. And so the commission process is a process that's put before us. And so the eligibility is based on injury, based on continued impact for atrocities. And 98, 99% of that eligibility is going to be people who are descendant of enslaved Africans in this country. Reparation, remedy, or redress is race-based, is harm-based, and is lineage-based, all three combined. And that's something that we have to look at.
And that is exactly why your plan, Mr. Howard, will fail, because that's exactly what they tried to do with affirmative action. Affirmative action went from something that was supposed to be just for freemen, the Black American descendants of those emancipated in this country, and then when it was challenged in the 70s, they made it all diversity, all harm groups. That's what we're going to make affirmative action, and look what they did with it. They shut it down. The only way it may survive, and this is something where you like Justice Clarence Thomas or not, this is something that he mentioned, but it was also mentioned by some other justices, is that it could survive based on the status of the people for whom it was meant that this country has deprived, and those people are the freemen. If you want to do a harm-based bill, I have nothing against that, but that is separate from reparations. Reparations is about a debt that this nation owes to the Black descendants of those people who were emancipated at the end of the Civil War, and then for the continued government sanctioned harm they face. Reparations is not about America resolving or healing all harms they've done to all wrong groups. And that's where you and I disagree, Mr. Howard, because the way your bill is going, it will definitely be scrutinized as a race-based bill and shot down. You want to know how I know? Because they did it with affirmative action. You want to know how I know? Because when the Biden administration, which they were giving crumbs anyway, as I'm sure you would probably agree, when they tried to do that farm aid, which was crumbs, and they tried to say it was for Black farmers, which they knew would not survive scrutiny at the constitutional level, it got shot down right away. On the other hand, when farmers from North Carolina South Carolina, and Alabama got together and they sued the federal government for discrimination that they faced because of their race. So race was incidental, but they didn't sue making it race based. They sued because of they met the status of black farmers who were wrong and terrorized by the USDA. They got what they were owed because that was about a particular debt that they were deprived from receiving and they got paid their debt. So, Mr. Howard, a race based or harm based bill is something separate from reparations. I support America having to heal the harms they've caused other people. And I also support America having to pay the debt they owe to my people, who I believe are your people too. And those are the freedmen, the descendants of those who were emancipated by the American government and where they never received what they're supposed to get from slavery, and then went through even worse terror after slavery, legislated by the federal government.
Brother, you don't even realize we're saying the same thing, but I'll leave it at that.
Miss Howard, we're not. You
We
you
are
are
saying the
saying.
same. But let me finish. Let me expound on that then.
Oh, I thought you were done. I'm sorry. I thought you were done.
Let me expound on that.
Yeah,
You,
Cam.
you
You
just
have three minutes, Cam. Go.
you just talked about the farmers, black farmers, and you said race was incidental. Race was there because it was a black farmers lawsuit. So race was there, and harm was there. They were harmed based on these governmental practices of not allowing them to access governmental policies that were given to other farmers. So it was a harm based, it was a crime based claim. It was a race based claim. And
I gotta find out what happened. What is this? What happened? Sorry, guys. Oh, what happened?
it's harm based, but most important, it is harm based and race based. We can't separate them. If we think we can separate race from this conversation, then every white person, especially Irish, who were also enslaved for over 150 years in this country, are eligible for reparations if it's only lineage based. Are we saying we want to give the Swedish who were sold into slavery in New York when the Dutch took back over Sweden? Do we want to say those people who had ancestors were enslaved in the South, who were sold into the South into slavery, are they eligible also? Are we basing it strictly on lineage? Everything is race, lineage, and harm. Three periods of crimes, three periods of harms. That is what we're saying, and you're saying the same thing in ways. We're both saying the same thing. So I'm going to leave it at that.
Mr. Howard, we are not saying the same thing.
Okay.
Actually, your harm-based model, that's the model that will allow a white person to come in. You'll have white people say, hey, I was harmed by redlining too. Hey, I was harmed by the war on drugs too. Your model is the one that will allow white people to come through. And if they were harmed, okay, so be it. Because a harm-based bill is not what reparations is about. Reparation, yes, we were harmed. It's about the debt that America owes us because of that harm. And it only goes to people of a specific status. And those are the freedmen. If people just want to say the Black American descendants of the people emancipated by the U.S., then fine. It's about a
Okay.
debt owed to us. If you do, Howard, let me finish. I didn't cut you off now. If you do any program that benefits all people or it's a harm based and we get money from that, great. But that's not reparations. Reparations is about the debt specifically owed to us. That's what it is. Okay. And you keep saying Africans. And here's the problem with that language. Technically, and you know this, and they've always tried to say this, technically everyone has African ancestry. And you don't want to open that door. Because then you have white people again saying, well, look, I have African ancestry too. Like I have, according to these DNA tests, you can believe those things. I have like 1%, 2% Native American ancestry. A lot of Americans could do, but I don't think there's a Native American tribe I can go and apply to, and I'm not interested. I already know the status I have, and I already know what I'm owed under that status. So the thing you're missing, you're looking at the harms the American government has caused, and for what they ensure they heal those harms. Yes, they should. I have nothing against a harm-based bill, but reparations is not about America healing all their harm. Reparations is not about let's heal everyone. You mentioned those farmers. Those farmers, that's not a good comparison. That's not a good analogy because those farmers didn't try to deal with all of the farmers who have been harmed by the United States Department of Agriculture. They were just concerned about the debt that was owed to them. And because they focus on them and they focus on their status, they got it. We have to be now and specific like that all the same. Again, I'm not against a harm-based bill, but that's separate from a reparations bill. And that's the point I'm making. Somehow we're not saying the same thing because your harm-based bill, that's the one that will allow the Swedish and the Irish and the Italians and the Chinese in. Not my reparations bill that focuses on our status. So where we may agree in some areas, we definitely disagree in the legislative focus.
Okay, thank you for that, Marcel. Mrs. L.
All right, I am here. I was actually trying to pull people up. We have three other people also. Um, this is getting good. And we're getting down to the nitty-gritty of the things that we really need to be discussing when it comes to this reparation fight. So, saying that, we have three questions that's going to come from the audience. We have you permit, and the other one, I was trying to get her back up. She actually had a question up, but we're going to start with you permit, and then we're going to go to the Freedman, and then after that, I swear I'm going to pull you back. I had your hand was one of the first ones up, and that's why they do me like that. She's the third person that's going to ask a question for this part of the debate. So we're going to go through those three, and then both Cam and Marcel will be able to respond. And guys, in this space, if you look in the chat, please, please, please give us some feedback. Let us know how you feel the debates are going. And the first question for how the debates are rated has been posted on my Blackboard. So we're going to go to our audience so that they, to our three family members who are going to be asking questions. So we start with you permit, Friedman, and then it's why they do me like that.
Hello, everybody. I just have a quick question for both panel. Both guests. Wouldn't it be easier, or do you think it's easier to issue reparations for Black Americans affected by chattel slavery, solely for that our people versus including others across the diaspora? The reason why I'm asking that question because as much pushback as been, and Brother Cam, you've been on this reparations platform and doing your work for the past couple of decades. And I'm a simple person, and simplicity sometimes is better. So I, why do we have to include others into our reparations claim versus letting CARICOM, which is a reparations group fighting for reparations in the Caribbean under the United Virgin Island, the University of the United Virgin Islands, that they don't have us included in that. So wouldn't it be easier for us to focus on us versus bringing everybody along? That's my question.
All right. Cam, 3 minutes.
Thank you. It's a misnomer, brother. And I didn't get your name. I would like to greet you by name. But it's a misnomer, brother, to think that any of us, when I was within Cobra, where I really based my study and knowledge, that any of us are focused on reparations for people in the Caribbean. We stand, in solidarity with their movement, as you stated, against the European governments they're fighting for. None of us here are, at least I know I'm not, trying to bring anyone from the diaspora into our reparations claim. What I'm saying is, and what I've always argued, was that if we base our argument on crimes that were committed, which is an international standard, crimes were committed, what's the continuing impact of those crimes? If there's continued impact, reparations are mandatory. It's not a question of should there be reparations. It's mandatory on international law that there's continued impact for crimes. Now, there's continued impact from the crimes of enslavement in a myriad of ways amongst current living people of African descent. But in order for us to use the crime-based international standard, when we go outside of enslavement, we go to this other period, this apartheid period. We have to include everybody who was affected by that particular crime. And again, it's only a small amount that we're making this huge argument that, and the same thing with this new apartheid period that we live in today. It's a very minimal amount of people, but in order to use the crime-based international standard, they have to be included. Only those who were injured in an area that we're trying to redress, or that can show continued impact in the area that you're trying to redress. 95% of Black folk in this country are descendants of Africans enslaved. I think it's anywhere from 90 to 95%, depending on the number. So 95% of the redress is going to go, probably 99% of the redress is going to go to people who are descendants of enslavement. Why do we just not focus on enslavement? At one time, they was trying to get us to focus on everything but enslavement, focus just on Jim Crow, because people are more closely aligned. There's still people alive who were affected by Jim Crow. We're saying every period of harm, every period, 400 years, not 1790. In the Senate and House apologies, they've already admitted to 1619 as the foundational date for the crimes that they began to commit against African people in this country. Why would we give them 200 years of reprise? They've already committed that they owe us from 1619 up until 1865. There were 3 periods of crimes, and we need redress from every period because we are continually impacted by every period for about 400 years of atrocities committed against us. And those atrocities and that impact and that harm will continue into perpetuity unless targeted resources, which is reparations, are directed.
Okay, so that is, you just kind of said what my plan goes encompasses. But now let me be clear. My plan starts at the emancipation for people to be eligible. You have to be a descendant of the 4.5 million people who were emancipated by the U.S. government to qualify. Yes, Jim Crow, racial massacres, land theft, redlining. What did they not do to us? All of that stuff is included, but the starting point for eligibility is at the end of American slavery. You have to be a descendant of the 4.5 million and self-identifying for your entire life as a Black American. And this is how, I'm sorry, you are trying to include the diaspora. You admitted it. You said in your answer, our Caribbean brothers, and you keep saying African brothers, and you haven't answered my question. Oh, Ms. Howard, let me speak now. You haven't answered my question about if you want to say African, descendants of Africans, then what are you going to do about these white people walking around here who are 2% white? I mean, 2% African, 10% African. They will see, you see, I'm a descendant of African. Another thing, Ms. Howard, you keep saying that you're not trying to include people in diaspora, but technically speaking, a Jamaican or a Nigerian or an Ethiopian or a Black Brazilian can show up in America today and say, oh my goodness, I've been harmed. I applied for a loan at Navy Federal, as we just saw, and I was denied. I've been harmed. America, you owe me. And then it becomes race-based. By default, it will become race-based. because no one's denying, Ms. Howard, that America does not have anti-black racism. It does, and it's awful. And I want that to stop too. I really, really, really do. I don't want anyone being hurt by the American government. And guess what? The American government is going to continue to hurt people until they have repaired the hurt they've done to us. And us are the freedmen, the Black American descendants of the people that the U.S. government emancipated. And that's why we have to be tight with this eligibility. The debt, that's what this is about, not the harm. The harm does matter, but as much as it matters to calculate the debt that America owes us. And that's what reparations is about, the debt they owe to those of us who are freedmen. The harm will continue to hurt everyone until they repair the harm they've done to us, and they do that by paying the debt they owe. And that's why we have to keep reparations, Mr. Howard, focused on the debt. And I don't need any more time. I yield my time back to the moderators.
Okay,
Thank you, Marcel.
Prime.
Is that on me?
Okay, Prime, you're up next to ask a question.
No doubt, no
Both
doubt.
debaters.
So is salute, respect to the lovely Miss G, the hostess with the mostest, and of course my homie Black Empower and Mr. Always Right. Is there a time limit that I have questions, or can I ask more than one question?
One,
What is it? What's the
you
standard?
got 1 minute for the question.
One question, 1 minute.
Okay,
Yep.
one question, 1 minute. Got it. So I appreciate this space because Cam Howard is exposing himself. He is literally lynching himself in this place, and I appreciate myself for adding on to the exposure. So my question would be, it's in pertaining to CARICOM, and again, he keeps talking about crimes. We're talking about the specific crimes and harms that was committed against the American freedmen class of citizens, and that's it. I don't know why he wants to include all these other groups of people. Probably because, um, well, he's an enemy to the American freedmen. So my question is this: why are you not advocating for the American freedmen to be included in the CARICOM reparations?
That's to you, Cam.
So, all due respect, again, I know how many times I have to say it. I'm not arguing for uh, people in the diaspora to receive reparations from America unless they've been harmed in America by America. They haven't been harmed in America by America, they would not be eligible. And the only reason they're eligible is because we know that this legal standard, again, it's international legal standard, crimes that were committed that have continued impact must be redressed. We cannot exclude the small percentage of 1 or 2 or 3% of immigrants from being eligible if they were harmed if we use this particular standard for which we base our claim. And my brother said that reparations for a debt, the debt is because of the crime of stolen labor. So we can't go away from crimes, and we must not remove ourselves from reparations is about crimes that were committed. Again, this is an international standard. And we base all of our work and effort on American standards, we get nowhere. The reason we are at this point now is because of what took place in 2001 at the World Conference Against Racism, where they established that the crime or that enslavement, transatlantic slave trade, apartheid, which was Jim Crow in this country, and colonialism were crimes against humanity, the most egregious types of crimes that a government can commit against the civilian population. And that is the basis of all of our reparations work all around the country. I am not proposing that this government pay Jamaicans or anyone else unless that particular individual was in this country at a time of a harm and was actually harmed. And that again is because we're utilizing the international standard of reparations, legal standard of reparations. If we could use something else, then we use something else. I'm not against someone coming up with another standard, a legal standard to defend. But what I know what works is this crime-based model works. And we have demonstrated that it works in this country and all around the world, actually. And so that's my push. CARICOM has stated that if we wanted to join into their efforts, we could. For instance, if you wanted to talk about British enslavement of black folks in this country, you can join on to the CARICOM claim. The Dutch government just agreed to pay reparations to Guyana. No one in New York has been made a claim against the Dutch when New York was owned by the Dutch. Before it became New York, it was New Amsterdam. And again, there's a whole host of crimes that they committed. And so CARICOM said you can join on to our struggle if you want to. As we pursue these European countries, you can do that as well. None of us has decided. My focus is on this government, this American government. I don't have the capacity to focus on all these other governments, and I'm definitely not going to be trying to focus
Okay.
on repair for anybody in the Caribbean when it is our ancestors who deserve to be repaired.
Okay,
And
Miss Hart, that was a long way of saying CARICOM ain't special for us. So that's my point right there. Look, the truth is, Miss Howard, you care about black people, all black people. So do I, unless you're a coon. Okay. But reparations again is about a debt the American government owes to freedmen. The same way CARICOM is like, and somebody who's probably in this room, they even sent someone who's on the CARICOM commission or CARICOM board or whatever. They sent them an email, and CARICOM literally said, "Hey, I have the bookmark, but I ain't gonna try to find it because I know I ain't lying. If the person you're in this room, you could post in a thread." They sent an email to somebody who's on the CARICOM board, and it was like, our current reparations plan only includes those of us here in the Caribbean. And they have a right. Mrs. Howard, I'm not sure if you're with Narcan and Cobra. I don't know what your relationship is with them. But if you are with Narcan and Cobra, then Narcan and Cobra support specificity too. Uh, Narc and then Cobra support specificity. You want to know how I know? Because when the two tribes, the the Nama and Herero tribes of Namibia, there are 9 black tribes in Namibia. The 10th are those white people who are mainly German descent. The Herero and the Nama tribe of Namibia, they sued Germany for reparations for the concentration camps they were placed in, which was really used as a model for what Hitler would do later on. Y'all, Narcan and Cobra, supported them doing that. Y'all didn't say to them, well, you have to include all of the black people in Namibia because everyone was harmed. Y'all didn't say that. Y'all supported them specifying the debt that was owed to them. And you know what's happening? I know you do. Right now, as we speak, the Nama tribe and the Herero tribe of Namibia, they're now saying they're suing their own government because the money went to their government and they was like, hey, that cash should have gone to us. So why is there a double standard? You supported them, and that's exactly what we're trying to do here. And the second thing, you are saying that you keep saying you don't want to bring other people into our reparations claim, and yet that's exactly, and then you turn around and say that's exactly what you want to do. You talk about the small amount of immigrants. I'm imagining those immigrants will be black, right? And right away, that will make it a race-based initiative, which will get shot down. And again, reparations is not about ending racism. Reparations is not about healing the harms the American government has caused to everyone. It's about the debt that the American government owes to us. And the third thing you said, oh boy, it says so much. I can't remember the third one I wanted to bring out. You kept saying that you've done a model that works before. Evanston is not the federal government. Evanston is a city in Illinois. I'm not in Evanston. I can't speak about how it worked. I know the first thing y'all did with that 25,000 housing voucher was a disaster. And people were asking they buy food with it because they just buy furniture with it. Now they're doing direct cash payments. Evanston is not the federal government. Evanston is a city. You can't take what we did in Evanston and say it'll work in the federal government.
All right, thank you, Marcel. That's your time. Miss Giselle, correct me.
yeah,
Is why they do me like that? She the third
yeah,
speaker?
yeah. She's the
Okay.
third one part of the debate, and since we have CC and Elder on the stage, we'll leave that up to the debaters if they want to take two more for this part of the debate, and then we're gonna do some concentrated questions directly to Cam, and then concentrated questions directly to Marcel, to give them some time to do some personal builds throughout the conversation. and so that you can better understand exactly, what their basis is, and their points, the key points that they're trying to make. And I want to make sure that everyone that gets on the stage and when you're asking questions, we want to be respectful to each one of the speakers. It doesn't matter what you feel. That's not what we're here to do. Like, we're really having real discussions that can determine the direction of our reparations claim countrywide. So I want to make sure that each person is respected in my spaces. Anything you want to do, you do that outside. But in this house, we want to keep it this way because this is us standing on business. And I respectfully respect everyone who understands that. So on that note, let's go to why they do me like
I'm
that.
sorry, Miss Giselle.
Oh
As a
yeah.
fact checker,
Oh yeah.
how you doing, Kim? Thank you for your contribution to this discussion. I'm really appreciating how this is going. You mentioned that CARICOM has invited Black Americans to be a part of their claim. I did some research and I haven't been able to find that, and CARICOM's website appears to have been down for a little over a month. Can you please, in the back channel or to Ms. Giselle's Blackboard, can you point us in the direction to which we can find evidence of this?
It was in a conversation that we've had in a international reparations convention of CARICOM and NARC commissioners in 2016. And just recently, and again, this is informal, and recently when the Dutch government came out in support of reparations for Ghana and some of its Dutch colonies in the Caribbean, they also raised the issue that, why aren't Americans uh, channeling uh, efforts at the Dutch government when there was Dutch enslavement in this country?
Oh,
Thank you for that. To confirm, just to summarize, this was a verbal conversation. It's more of a what if or how come, and it has not been written. We have not received a sure that I myself and the listeners understand what that means.
Yeah, it was a statement that was offered at an international conference. That was the official statement in 2015, 16, or whatever year that was.
Okay,
And
well,
Thank you so much.
I have
Th-
evidence of a letter that someone wrote. I'm sorry, I have this is pertinent to what was just asked. I have the letter that this person sent. They have me blocked. I have no blocked. We're mutually blocked each other. I don't know, but I have the letter that I was mentioning that I saw someone sharing on social media that they emailed to someone on CARICOM, and they was like, "Oh no, we don't cover all people or people of African descent in the U.S. We just work on the Caribbean." I'm gonna share it in my thread. I'm gonna share it in the jumbotron, so I can actually provide some evidence of what I was referring. So I'm gonna put it in the jumbotron.
okay.
and let me just say that that's not contradictory. What he just stated and what I just stated is not contradictory. If we choose to, if some Black folks in this country choose to join on or to do the research on British debt to Black Americans, Spanish debt to Black Americans, France's debt to Black Americans, Dutch debt to Black Americans for enslavement in this country, we can join our petition onto their petition. But they are strictly focused on those governments for redress for their people. So what the brother just stated and what I stated are not contradictory.
Okay, thank you for that. We want to move on to why they do me like that. Her question to both debaters.
Thank you so much, Ms. Giselle, for cultivating the space. And Black, thank you as well for moderating. Thank you to the panelists, Mr. Dixon and Mr. Howard. I really do appreciate you guys for participating in this debate today. So I did post in the thread this evidence, but the Pew Research Center says that as of 1980, only 0.8% of the Black population was foreign born. That grew to 3.5% in the 90s, and today it is at about 10%. And so my question is, what if we go the harms based route? what harms would people who arrived into the U.S. By their own choice after 1980, what harms would they be applicable for in terms of reparative justice?
Okay, let's go to Marcel first this time. Marcel.
Can you ask that last part again? Why they do me like that? Because you saw, I'm sorry, my mind kind of went blank when you said that the black immigrants 10% of our population.
Yes, I'm so sorry. My with the knowledge that most of the foreign Black population in the U.S. has gotten into this country after 1980, what harms would they be applicable for the reparations claim for the vestiges of slavery in the U.S.?
That's a good question for Mr. Howard, but I'm gonna take my shot at it. I am gonna point out one correction. That first of all, the over 56% of them, something like that, entered America after the year 2000. Okay, so I don't know what harms Mr. Howard's talking about, but see, if we let Mr. Howard have his way, we'll have a Jamaican get off the plane today, or a Haitian get off the plane today, or the Trinidadian get off the plane today. Oh, I hurt my leg. I've been harmed. Oh, I applied for housing loan. I didn't get it. I've been harmed. Oh, my kid is going to a bad school. I'm in a majority Black American neighborhood, and our schools have been historically underfunded because of Jim Crow. I've been harmed. It by default will become race-based. The only way his harm-based bill would not get shot down is if he made his harm-based bill open to everyone. If he is saying his harm-based bill, it's the Black people who are harmed by this, Black people who are harmed by that, it by default becomes a race-based bill, and it will not hold up to constitutional scrutiny. We saw that with affirmative action. We are seeing that with this farmers bill that's now open to farmers of color, and Black farmers are probably going to get the least bit of it. We have seen this happen time and time again. And reparations is not even about harm, is about the debt that this country owes to the freemen, American freemen, because of the harm they've done to us. It's about that debt. The second thing I want to say, there's been a surveys done, and it's saying that a lot of Black immigrants do support reparations. But I would like to get how Mr. Howard is feeling about California. It's funny he mentioned the state and local level, but he hasn't mentioned much about California, which is probably having the most recognized plan. Now, when they do me like that, I think I've kind of answered your question. I don't know, Mr. Howard have to answer that because he's the one talking about some harm. But my thing is, I know the harm that what he is saying. I know the harm it can cause our reparations movement because we saw it in California. The reason California was able to get as far as they've gotten is because they had to focus on the debt and they had to focus here on the status and keep it narrowly focused on the debt. When they try to do that, all Black people, a constitutional attorney, a few of them said it will get shot down right away. So we have to keep it focused on the debt that's owed to that specific group that has been done wrong. Mr. Howard has to answer more of your questions about what harm to which he's referring. Because if most of them came after 2000, I don't know. And he'll keep this thing going until 2023 tomorrow, and it'll become a race-based bill, which won't work.
Okay, Cam. Cam.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I was muted. Again, all reparations for us is race-based, is lineage-based, and is crime-based. All three, and there's some remedies. One or more would be more significant than the other, but there's an element of each one of them in any form of reparations. So my sister's question about what would some of these people who came in after 1980, what would they be eligible for? Again, the way the HR 40 was written around the three eras of crimes against humanity. And crimes against humanity, again, is what we're talking about. And so everybody would not be eligible because they were racialized in this country for redress for crimes against humanity. And all of the atrocities that are being committed against Black people currently, although they may be seen as racialized, racial injustice to others, because we have this ongoing history of race-based harms, race-based uh, actions against us, everything, no matter how small it is looped under the term of crimes against humanity because it's continuous. It's never stopped. So it may just be racial for some others, but it's crimes against humanity when it comes to us. And we have to broaden how we look at things in this country when it comes to reparations, which is difficult for Mr. Marcel to do because he keeps going back to the same statement. But anyway, those who came after 1980, the major areas of crimes against humanity during that particular time was mass incarceration, predatory lending, and police terror. If there are remedies to address mass incarceration, there's a lot of war on drugs, reparations out there going on now, dumping the crack cocaine in our communities, et cetera. If there is a African or Caribbean person who can demonstrate that they were harmed by that and its continuing impact, then they would be eligible as well as the millions of Black people who would automatically be eligible as well. The only way they are eligible is because this international standard, legal standard that we're basing this on has to include them and not anyone else. But again, as you stated, this is a small number of people who would be included in some of this redress. And the majority of the redress is going to be for the period of enslavement and the period of apartheid.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yep.
Thank you to
Yep.
both of the speakers. Yes, thank you to both of the speakers and you also, moderator. I'm so sorry. I wanted to jump in to C, and this is up to the debaters. Marcel, Cam, do you want to take the two? We have two hands that's on the stage. Do you want to take the two hands for this part of the debate, and then we tackle that last question? Or you can we can save the two hands for the last question. So it's all up to you guys.
I can do the two hands. I don't like. I mean, I know how people really want to ask their question and it won't take long to answer. I think we be concise and then we can get to the question. I think we should take the two hands. And I don't know what Mr. Howard's time schedule is. I'm only speaking for me.
Okay, and Cam, how about you?
I will go along with Mr. Marcel's suggestion.
Okay, thanks, guys. All right, so we're gonna go to CC, ladies first. Then we're gonna go to Elder Max, and you guys get 1 minute, one question. And we're gonna alleviate all of the side notes, just because we want to be respectful to the debaters. It takes a lot to get up here and really speak from this, and stand on the business that you leave. So let's make sure we keep it respectful. So go ahead, CC. It is on you, and then we're gonna go to Elder Max.
Thank you. Good day, Ms. Giselle. Good day, Black Native. Peace, love, and reparations to the space. And thank you to the two gentlemen that are debating. Um, when we look back in history, particularly at Field Order 15 and then the Freedmen's Bureau, it clearly states that the Freedmen's Bureau was to give repair to formerly enslaved persons, the five civilized tribes, and refugees, and they were to get their own specific repair. So, given that, I don't see anything that's race based. So, to Cam Howard, I will ask you to cite two times in the history of the United States government where reparations was paid based on race.
Go ahead to Cam for that. Cam for that question.
Well, if you look at my brother Cash raised up Rosewood, Rosewood was based on race. I mean, it wasn't indigenous people who ran out of Rosewood. It was Black people who ran out of Rosewood. So those Black people were paid. It was based on the crime. It was the overwhelming redress element was a crime was committed. And it was committed against a certain people, and that certain people were Blacks who lived in Rosewood. The same thing with the Black farmers. redress element. It is crime based, the crime of withholding public policy and resources from this portion of farmers in this country who happen to be black. We can't get away from black, can't get away from race, no matter how much people state we can get away from race. We can't get away from race. If we attempt to do so, then we're going to allow, again, whites and others to come into the picture. We don't make a legal argument on race, as Mr. Marcel says. That would not, uh, we would have a constitutional challenge. Our legal argument is based on crime, or if you can find a legal argument, or not find one, but if you can win with a legal argument based on status, then do so. What we know right now is a legal argument based on crime has passed international muster and so far American muster. That does not mean race is not an element. Race is actually is going to always be an element, because we're talking about whether we call ourselves freedmen, foundational Black Americans, Americans descendants of enslavement, whatever we choose to call ourselves. We're talking about a particular group in this country that has been classified as Black or African descendant or African American. Race is a element. However, it's not the legal element. The legal element is either status that someone is pushing, or the legal element is crime-based, which my group has been pushing, and many of us in the reparations movement has been pushing, based on the 2001 International Declaration that slavery was a crime against humanity, and apartheid was crimes against humanity. But in any area, Rosewood, you asked for two, and I'll just give you Rosewood. The Tuskegee experiment is another one, and Black farmers, and anywhere where Black people got reparations, race was an element.
All right, and thank you.
Wait. Is Marcel gonna address it?
Yep.
Yes, thank you, Connie. Yes, I will. First of all, Rosewood was not done. The harms were done to them because they were Black, but the legislation that gave them their reparations is because they were the people attacked. So yes, the harm was because they were Black, but the legislation didn't go to all Black people in Florida. And at that time, Florida was a largely Black American state. It only went to those of the status who were harmed. You keep bringing up the Black farmers issue, and I guess it was a mistake for me to bring that up. That was not congressional legislation, Mr. Howard. That was a lawsuit that they filed against the federal government. And that sort of proves your point. They didn't go there suing America for all the wrongs harms America has done to this group and that group. They said the debt you owe us is because you've done this to us. So pay us underneath the Glickman versus Pickford lawsuit. Pay us the debt you owe us. They focus on their debt, and that is how they were able to successfully win their lawsuit. I'm currently in a lawsuit, two actually, and I'm focusing on the debt that is owed to me. I'm not trying to file a lawsuit for all this harm that's been done to that one. You have to be narrow and focused. Also, third, I never said that race was completely absent from this. What I said is that reparations cannot be done race-based. But yes, there is a racial qualifier. The same thing with the Japanese who were interned. With the Japanese who were interned, you had to be Japanese first and foremost. But that alone is what was not going to qualify you. What qualified you was you had to be Japanese, and then you had to be a Japanese person who was interned in the concentration camp, or three, a direct descendant. It's no different from our reparations claim. You have to be Black, yes, identifying that all your life, but then you have to be a descendant of the freedman, which makes you a freedman. You have to be a freedman. So there is a racial qualifier. But what you're saying is that reparations should be race-based. If you are any Black person in America that has ever been harmed by anything anti-Black that America has done. And that is not going to fly, because if you want to try to do that, Mr. Howard, that is a separate bill. That's a separate matter. Reparations is about, again, the debt that is owed to the freedmen. Or if people don't want to use that, Black Americans who are the descendants of those who were emancipated, but that legal status is free. It's about the debt that is owed to us. After that we start to qualify after slavery ended, after the Civil War, And then Jim Crow redlining. It's for the debt that is owed to us, and you begin that eligibility at the end of slavery. It's about that debt, not about America repairing all harms we've ever done to black people.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Elder Max, your question?
Yes, good afternoon to everybody, and thank you, the debaters, for showing up. My question is this: is pretty direct. I kind of feel like it's a crime for Cobra and others to come in and grift off of Black Americans' reparations fight. Um, if reparations are given, stay on the city level and state level, right, and then the federal level comes up and it's approved, would that disqualify you as far as double dipping? And I'll land with that.
Or
So,
Marcel for that question? Well, go ahead, Cam. Go ahead.
um, I don't understand what the brother mean by Griffin. I'm not privy to what he means by that. But if um, we have argued that crimes have been committed against Black people at every level of government, federal government, state government, and local governments. Each level of government has an obligation to redress Black people for the crimes they committed at that particular level. When we look at some of the states like in the South who benefited from convict leasing and peonage, they have a different level of redress, a different level of obligation than the federal government, a different level of obligation from some of the southern cities in those southern states. And the federal government has its own broader level of debt and obligation for redress. So when we apply reparations at the local level, we're looking at what that particular local uh, structure has done specifically to harm Black people. What specific crimes have they engaged in to negatively impact Black people? Same thing at the state level, same thing at the federal level. So no, it's not double dipping. There should be redress at every level of government for Black people because we are harmed by every level of government in this particular country.
And I mean, yes, so that's true. I mean, there is not one area of the U.S. that has not committed atrocities towards the freemen for which they have to answer. Okay? But the truth of the matter is the federal government is responsible for it all. When you see those white mobs that burnt down Black Wall Street, don't get mad at the white mobs. They're despicable, disgusting pieces of cowards who suffer and I'm sure paid for what they did with karma. And if there's a hell, they're burning in it. Yes, that's true. However, look at the federal government that allowed them to do it. When Black Americans were losing their land, yes, get mad at the thieves that did it. But don't forget the federal government that allowed them to steal our land. And then there were not just times where the federal government sanctioned terrorism against us. There are many occasions where the federal government initiated it. Chattel slavery, federal government. They did, it was unconstitutional and they knew it. That's why they never used the Constitution to do it. But the Fugitive Slave Law Act, the Federal Housing Authority that put railroads and highways through our neighborhoods, the federal government literally directed them to do that. Spying and assassinating our leaders. The federal government literally directed them to do that. So no, it's not double dipping. It's no more double dipping than Native Americans, who, by the way, Mr. Howard, they don't get their settlements, which is really reparations. Native Americans don't get their settlements because they're Native Americans. They get it by their tribal identification, which is a status. But I continue. Native Americans get benefits on the municipal level, the state level, and the federal level. So I wish someone would talk about something we damn double dipping.
All right. Thank you for that, Mrs. L.
Yes.
Y'all, what we doing here?
Hear me? Can you hear me now?
I hear you now.
Yes.
You're a little in the
Okay.
matrix. I hear you now.
I'm so sorry about that. Yes, no, the last part of this, this whole entire portion of the debate, you guys added so much context, especially when it comes to your stance on who reparations should be paid for, who America should pay reparations to. I want us to kind of like tap into this last part as we get to closer to the end of this debate. I want to go back to the first part of the question, the most effective reparation plan for Black America. Understanding both of you guys' stance on what reparations look like, what it should who it should be for. What, as far as the tangibles, what should that look like? What should that entail? Because we have so many different things. You know, you have different flyers all over the place. We need our reparations on the state level, and then once the task force are formed, we're like, that's not reparations. What should those um not reparations, state atonements, correction of that word, but what should those on a state and federal level look like in your eyes based on who you guys believe they should be paid to? And I'll start that question with you, Marcel and Cam, and we only have the spot for two more questions from the audience.
Well, I answered that, but I'm not. I mean, I always have to reiterate it. It should be direct cash payments. That's non-negotiable. Now you got some people running around here being uninformed, talking loud, saying a whole bunch of nothing, talking about, oh, my plan is not direct cash payments. Cash bonds is cash. And my plan will give you your money right away soon as the damn bill is approved and gets the president's signature. And you will get paid monthly interest right away. My plan, as it stands now, because it is a living, breathing plan, and I tell someone I'm always welcome to better ideas. I have yet to get any, but my plan will have people paid in interest monthly. It'll be at least $15,000 a month until the bond matures. We should have an agency of the government that is for us. You know, it's funny, these Republicans, these faux conservatives talk about small government. You don't get no better than us having the return of the Freedmen's Bureau. But instead of it being underneath the government, it will be a separate entity. Sort of like how the IRS is a separate entity, but they get a federal budget. Like Native Americans get a budget and they can allocate it to in the way to address the needs, the Bureau of Indian Affairs. We need a Freedmen's Bureau that will get a budget, and that budget can be spent in a way that can address our needs. Of course, there needs to be accountability, which needs to come from us first and foremost, and there needs to be some accountability from the federal government, but it will be our agency of the government. We will almost have our own government within the government. That's two. Number three, we need our Black land grants. Four, our Black Wall Street initiatives. Now, the Black land grants will be land grants mainly in the South, the deep South. That's not the only place where they would be, but that would be the primary place where they would be. And it'll be helping us to get into industries, especially agriculture, where we can feed and clothe ourselves. They can help us get housing, of course. And then the Black Wall Street initiative, which will be business grants. That we will have our own Freeman post offices, our own Freeman banks, our own Freeman hospitals, our own Freeman schools, like the Native Hawaiians and Native Pacific Islanders have. So that is pretty much the rundown of my plan right there. And of course, we have special protected status. But that protected status, we had that already. We technically still have it now. It's not being enforced. When we had the Freedmen's Bureau, and then we had the military protectors of the South, that was a protected status. But protected status works when you get those specific policies for your status, and then when you have your own judicial body, which we have our own judicial body as well, and there are weighted consequences for any actions taken against us of our status there.
Thank you, Marcel. And that question goes back to you, Cam.
So I think we spent too much time on the contentions in the movement, which are really not that different. They're just nuanced differences. The people are raising these differences up like they're monumental and catastrophic. They're very nuanced differences around what legal argument we think is best, and what small percentage of people will be added if we use one particular legal argument above the other. very nuanced, but it's too contentious. And it's so contentious, and that's why I started off saying that these type of arguments and these type of debates is not something that I'm really um, um, keen to being a part of. Not because it's not important that we have these questions, have this discussion, but because it distracts us from the overall mission. And that mission is to get a federal bill. We should have these discussions. But secondarily to us, how do we craft a structure and movement to get a federal commission or federal bill passed if it's not going to be a commission? I don't think that this government is going to pay a any type of cash reparations before a commission or anything like that is developed. I don't believe that. If someone has some evidence that that can happen, then they should present that. What we do know is that historically, the commission process has been the precedent for addressing these questions. And if that's the case, our primary focus, no matter what we call ourselves, no matter what forms we want reparations to take, no matter who we think is eligible for reparations or not, our primary focus must be on getting the commission established. Then we can have principled debate, like my brother Cash started out with a very principled, detailed analysis of cash-based reparations from which we can base a larger conversation around and how do we get to agreement around cash-based reparations. We can have those principal discussions, but they cannot usurp or stand above the discussion, the movement, the action around getting the reparations commission. I invite everybody to go to earntheblackvote.net and join this movement, because that is what is necessary for us to even begin to um, even have the ability in realistic terms to talk about who's eligible and what forms reparations should take.
Mr. Zell, you want to go to the two speakers on the stage? All right. We'll move on to the two speakers that are on the stage. See
Yeah.
Ross from the DMV and Arthur Ward. We'll go with ladies first. You have 1 minute for questions to both debaters.
And thank you. I actually was posting the second poll, second to last poll, for our debaters. I'm sorry about the delay, but yes, we're gonna follow what Black and Power just said.
All right. I wanted to thank you both for having this debate, and I wanted to thank the debaters for being able to answer questions and that are posed. My question is quite simply well, I'm gonna ask a precursor, but the indicator, the best indicator of what someone will do in the future is what have they been doing in the past. And Cam Howard had mentioned earlier about the Democratic Party, and that's how we have to stay on the Democratic Party and be able to get them and push them for an HR 40. I want to know what indicators, especially by you, sir, being a Chicagoan. I've never been to Illinois in my life. I've lived in New York, however, in DC. But what indicators is the Democratic Party showing currently with your Governor Pritzker, Biden with the open border policy? And it looks like more of a race and replacement of the Black people within the inner cities of sanctuary cities, which I happen to also live in a sanctuary county. So with the replacement by immigrants coming in, who most of whom certify that they are white if they're Hispanic, how is the Democratic Party showing any kind of level of support for the American citizen who is happens to descend from chattel, and for us to be able to support them in any future efforts where they're constantly importing people to replace us? Thank you for taking that question.
Thank you. Cam, it's on you
That
first.
is a great question. That is a very great question, and it speaks to what I've been speaking to in this conversation in some ways. But I'm gonna go more specific into that. You're absolutely right. There's a race and replacement effort on behalf of the Democrats in this country. And the reason why is because right now they're totally dependent on black voters in order to win. And we know that at some point there's going to be a fast track to get those migrants citizenship so they can be voters as well. We have, and if that's the case, we have this very short window to exercise our power in this country in regards to the Democratic Party. But what are the indicators? I talked about that earlier. We have demonstrated to the president that the Democratic leaders in Congress at the federal level have the political will to pass reparations or to deal with the reparations issue in the form of a commission. 217 confirmed votes in the House. People don't just co-sponsor bills just to co-sponsor bills. They co-sponsor bills because they think that it would help them going forward, or they don't co-sponsor because they feel it would hurt them. So the Democratic Party leadership in Congress and in the Senate believe that standing on this issue of redress, a reparations study, which they're calling it, will benefit them. And they think it'll benefit them at the polls. The other indicators I stated is that everywhere around the country where there's local reparations, it's all being initiated within the Democratic electorate, Democratic administration. And that is also an indicator. And what we're saying to the president, that is also an indicator that there's political will all around the country for this issue to be brought forth now, and he has the power to do it, and he should do it because, again, it benefits him to do so, and it's hurtful to the Democratic Party if they don't do it. So you've asked the right question. What are the indicators? There's political will at the federal level as well as local spaces within the Democratic Party. And we also have a very short window because there is a race and replacement campaign that will be initiated and is being initiated as we speak. And so we have to take advantage of this power that we have at the time and not allow it to be wasted.
All
I'm
right,
sorry, what was
thank
the
you for the
question again?
matrix. Ross, want to repeat the
Okay,
question?
sure. I was saying with the indicator, with the best indicator for the future is how people have treated you in the past. What indicators do we have in the past, and what indicators do we currently have that the Democratic Party, especially how they're treating the people with Chicago and making people register in order to sit in city council meetings and throwing people out of city meetings that disagree with them, and just bringing people in that are not citizens over the citizens, giving the non-citizens better benefits than the actual Chicagoans that are our people. What indicator do we have that the Democratic Party is going to do anything for us, the freedmen?
Well, they're not. And that's why, first of all, I've never been to Illinois either, but I've always wanted to visit Chicago, and I want to visit it while it still has quite a significant black population. Okay? That's the whole other story. That's why I don't get what Cam Howard acts like us getting reparations is dependent on the Democrats. Even in California, that didn't happen because of the Democrats. That happened because of grassroots activists who found a person who's on code, Dr. Shirley Weber, who, yes, runs is in the Democratic Party, but that doesn't automatically make her on coal. Because if that was the case, we would have had reparations a long time ago. A lot of these majority Democratic states will be doing reparations or state atonement acts for state atonements, and their black populations wouldn't be so to the bottom like they are now. California has been a blue state for the longest, and black Americans like 6% of the population, but 40% of the homeless, and Los Angeles like 60%. The level of black poverty and fault and mass incarceration for crimes they didn't even commit in California is sky high. So let's go back like the Democrats equals give a damn about black people. And now in Chicago, case in point, majority Democrat a city where all levels of the politics are ran by the Democrats. They are treating black people like garbage, freezing in the streets during the winter. Meanwhile, they're giving these illegals $9,000, feeding them, clothing them, doing programs for them. They had years, decades to do it for Black Americans who were living in places like Caprini Gardens or whatever that place was called, who were living in squalor, and they did nothing about it. So I don't know why Campbell's act like the Democrats are our only hope. No, being on cold is our hope. And you could be a Democrat, a Republican, a Libertarian, Constitutional Party. If you work that person, they're for us, they're for us. Because the way it's going, we're going to have to be involved in politics and put our own candidates up for office who are for us. Party be damned. And get these illegals the hell out of here.
Right. Thank you for that, Marcel. Arthur Ward, your question to the debaters.
Yes, this is more of a statement than a question. First of all, I just want to let Cam know that.
I'm sorry. It has to be a question. It has to be a
Okay.
question.
Well, look, let me ask this. Before the NARC website was revised, and Cam knows this because he's a commissioner with NARC. What do we do with this statement? And this statement has not left. What they did was that they revised it using some lawyer in order to switch up the language, but it's still saying the same thing, although in more complex and long-winded language. It said, "We strongly affirm the right of all people of African descent in the United States to receive reparations, irrespective of when they arrived here or their country of origin. It would be the height of hypocrisy to limit reparations to only those who can prove a direct lineage as victims of the enslavement era. For these and other reasons, we believe that any effort to restrict discussion of reparations to those who can trace a direct line to slavery is not only a misreading of history, but falls prey to a particular form of Black nativism that identifies more with the nation state known as the United States of America, rather than to our commonality with the rest of the African world. NARC firmly asserts that reparations should not be restricted to people of African descent who can prove their lineage to what is being termed American enslavement." And that statement says nothing about harm. It only focuses on the race of the person and whether or not they're on United States soil.
Okay. Thank you for that. Cam?
So what my brother didn't read was a concluding statement which summarizes everything that he just read, which is basically what I've been saying all day, is that and this concluding statement is all Black people harmed in America by America should be repaired in America by America. You weren't harmed in America. You can't identify a crime, not just a harm, a racial harm, but something that was connected to the crimes against humanity that was been targeted toward Blacks in this country, then you have no element of redress coming to you. But if you were harmed in this country, by this country, you should be repaired in this country, by this country. If you weren't in this country during a particular period of harm or crime, you don't get anything. So that's the concluding statement that the brother left out.
Okay, so pretty much, Cam, Ms. Howard, you keep saying it's not race-based and you just made it race-based.
I just told you, brother, everything is race-based. You keep saying I said it's not race-based. I've said 10 times
Cam. No
it's
interruptions.
race-based.
I'm sorry. No interruptions. No interruptions. Yeah, Marcel.
Yeah.
You just literally made it race-based. You literally just did that. Okay? Reparations, again, is about the debt that is owed to the freemen, the Black American descendants of those enslaved, emancipated by the American government. You can literally make the argument. You keep saying a period of time, a period of time, a period of time, and a small number of people. If you do harm-based, the argument will be made, why are you excluding white people who are harmed by redlining? Why are you excluding white people who are harmed by mass incarceration? Why are you excluding white people who are harmed by sharecropping? Okay? That's what happens when you do a harm-based model. We know because we're seeing it right now with this farm bill that they tell us it was for Black farmers. It got shut the hell down like it should have because they tried to make it race-based when they could have just said it's for the freedmen or for the Black American descendants of those emancipated by America. But instead, they knew, and they did it on purpose, but they don't really want to help us as you know, because you work with a lot of these people in office, you know they really don't give a damn about this and want to help us. They did that because they wanted to sabotage it. So they made it race-based. It got shot down. And now it's for all farmers who've been harmed. And we are going to hope and pray that it disproportionately help the majority of people, the only people who are really talking about USDA, and that is us. We've seen it with affirmative action. That was for us. And then it made it to all groups who have been oppressed. And it ended up helping us the least. It ended up helping black immigrants a hell of a lot, though, and white women. That's what happens when you do a harm-based model. That's not reparations. And since I read that, I also read on that same website where y'all said that reparations shouldn't be tied or made direct cash payments. It can be resources to the community. That's a no-starter right there. Now, I'm not sure if that's your viewpoint, but if it is, that's a no-go right there.
All right, thank you for that. Mr. Zelf, you said there's a final question and then closing arguments.
Yes, we have Mark on the stage. He's the last questionnaire. Guys, there was so many people that had their hands up for questions. I'm so sorry. We couldn't get to everyone. However, we definitely will be again coming back next month. You know how we do it in these Twitter streets. But we only have time for the one more question, and then we're going to do the closing arguments from our debaters so that you guys can enjoy the rest of this beautiful day. I have Mark Carter on the stage. You have your 1 minute question directed to both of the speakers.
Okay, thanks for allowing me this opportunity. But why would we include any other groups, especially Africans and Caribbeans, in our justice claim in any form of fashion, knowing that the Republican Party has made it clear that they would only support reparations if it's only if it's for those who descended from American chattel slavery. And then on top of that, African International House and the United African Organization has aligned itself with the immigrant agenda under the Office of New Americans. And they specifically named in the Chicago New Americans Plan, if you go to page 46, 47, and 48 of 52.
Yeah, Cam? Yeah, Cam, you can take that question. Cam, unmute your mic.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah,
Yeah,
there.
I explained earlier why they would be included only in regards to the legal claim of crimes were committed. There's continued impact, and reparations is obligatory. That's an international legal standard, and in order for us to win on that standard, uh, there's a infinitely small portion of non-descendants of African enslavement that would be eligible for some redress only in relationship to actual crimes that they were impacted by only. And it's a legal argument. If it was up to me, would it be solely for people who are descendant of Africans who were enslaved in this country? Of course. That's what my ancestors are. But in order to win, we utilize whatever legal standards we can to win. And we know that legal standard has won and has stood up to constitutional scrutiny. If the lineage base and someone put that forward and it's challenged legally and it wins, then certainly we will utilize that as well. We're not saying that we're against lineage. Again, I stated from the beginning, all reparations for Black people is race, lineage, and crime based. Some of the elements will be more focused than the other elements, but all three elements exist simultaneously.
Okay, Marcel.
One, that's fun. It's great you mentioned international because Ms. Howard, you never responded to the fact that y'all supported the Namibians, the Herero, and the Nama tribe, who said that the reparations from Germany should go to them. Y'all supported them specifically, wanting it for them, and ignored the other 7 Black tribes in Namibia. You didn't say for them to do a harm-based model. You ignore the fact that right now the Democratic Republic of Congo and Rwanda are saying to Belgium, hey, y'all owe us reparations. You ignore the fact that Buhari, who at the time was the president of Nigeria, said that reparations should go to them, not to Black Americans, but reparations to America should go to them. So all these international, these foreign Black nations, it CARICOM look out for them. The only time the only group that's expected to include every goddamn body, even when constitutionally it will get shot down, is us. You know race-based will get shot down. Race can be a qualifier, but race can be one of the qualifier, but it cannot be the defining element. Again, the Japanese Americans who are interned, in order to qualify for reparations, you had to be Japanese. But that was not what defined you as an eligible recipient. It was that you was also a person who was interned, or you was a direct descendant of a person who was interned. It's no different from us. You have to be an American freeman, meaning, first of all, you are a Black American. You've been identifying as such your entire life, okay? And your parents have as well. I'm going to start adding that. But you also have to be a descendant of a person who was a Black descendant of a person who was emancipated by the U.S. government, because it's about the debt that is owed to us. Again, your harm-based model will allow the white people and the Irish people who you claim you don't want to be involved to order to say, hey, we're owed too, and it will be shot down. So you keep mentioning this international standard where all these other foreign groups ain't thinking about us, but you're saying we have to think about them, even when you know constitutionally it will get shot down at the federal level.
Can I respond
Yes.
to the moderators? Okay. So, my brother,
Yeah.
I don't know what you're listening to, but you're not listening at all. You just have your point. I've continually stated that the legal standard we're looking at is a crime-based standard, not a race-based standard. You keep saying, I'm saying it's a race-based standard. I'm saying race is part of it. Lineage is part of it. The standard, the legal standard, is a crime-based model. You talk about the Herero people. And yes, I've supported it. I even wrote a scathing letter against the Namibian government. I wrote a scathing letter to the Namibian government for taking the redress that was for the Herero people and utilizing it for Namibian development. The crime with the Herero people was a crime of genocide that took place against them. It was a crime-based claim. And yes, it's lineage-based, and yes, it's ethnic-based. And that's what we're saying in America. It's ethnic-based, it's lineage-based, and it's crime-based. Again, this is the model, the international model. And Namibia is an example of that. There's no way we can get away from these three elements. But what is the legal basis of our argument? Is it status? We haven't proved that yet. I'm not against it, but we have proved that the crime-based model works. And we are not going to abandon something that works on a theory that we have not proved yet. We will welcome as many avenues, legal avenues, as we're able to develop to ensure that we get redress. The legal avenue that's available right now that we know works is crime-based. And if we realize that, we got to include a few 100,000 people with the 48 million Black people who's going to get redress. And we want to throw away this particular tool that we have because a few 100,000 other people may get some redress, minor redress. That's what's at stake right here. How do we get the 48, 45 million Black folks who are descendants of enslaved Africans in this country redress?
Okay, so one, you could contradict yourself really bad.
I've contradicted myself.
You did. When Germany was colonizing Namibia, all of those Black tribes suffered. And yet, the only people who got reparations was the Nama and the Herero, okay? And you supported that. And guess what? That's right. That's specificity. Are you serious? You're saying that there's no precedent for status based? When I first started off, I named all the different examples. I can name more. Pretty much every Native American tribe that has special recognition gets it not because they're Native Americans. There are plenty of Native American tribes who do not get special recognition from the government. But the ones that do, they get it based on their tribal affiliation. There's no one selling package that all Native Americans get. The Choctaw get this, the Catawba get this, the Apache gets this. They all get it based on their tribal affiliation, that status. I've mentioned the intern Japanese more than any other group. The intern Japanese Americans who received reparations got it based on their status. The people who were exposed to radiation got it based on their status. And back to the intern Japanese, there were some Japanese who were from Latin America who did not get reparations because they were not of the status that the Japanese Americans had. Okay? The people who are in Guam, the people who are the Iranian hostages. There are many times that people have, the only time reparations happen, it has been done based on people's statuses. The time where it's gotten shut down, when they try to do some reparative action, is when it's been based on race. As we've seen when they made the argument about affirmative action, as we've seen when they tried to do their black farmers package, which was pathetic already, but the fact they tried to do it on race, it got shot down right away. So if you want to talk about precedent and what we have not seen, I don't want to talk about what we have seen. We've seen race-based things get shot down. And you want to set us up to do it again when, first of all, the reparations not even about the quote unquote harm, it's about the debt that's owed to us because of those harms, a specific group, the freemen. And then number two, you've seen all those models attempts to do it the way you're speaking of get shot down, and you still want to do it. Number three, you keep talking about the crime-based, the harm-based model, and that crime and harm-based model, that's the thing that will open up the door to those Swedes and Irishmen that you mentioned earlier, because they can technically make the argument they've been harmed too.
So I started by saying, brother, you weren't listening, and you just continue to make the same thing. I have not made a race-based argument. I said race is, to use your word, qualifier. Race is a part of the identifier of who gets redress. The argument is not a race-based legal argument. It's a crime-based legal argument, and everything you just named, all the five civilized tribes, those were crime-based. The Japanese was crime-based. Those were crime-based claims. The black farmers' initial claim was a crime-based claim. It wasn't a race-based claim. And they weren't shot down. President Biden's attempt to make it a race-based issue was shot down, but they weren't shot down. They stood up because it was based on the crime that was committed. And again, with the Herero people, it was a crime of genocide. That particular ethnic group was ran into the desert to die. And the other ethnic groups were, they were colonized, but they didn't experience the brunt of genocide that was practiced in Namibia against the Herero people that was later utilized as a basis of genocide of the European Jews. That was a specific crime against a specific people. And that is what they based their claim on, was the crime, and not so much the ethnicity was part of it because it was done against that particular ethnic group. We cannot get away from crime, we cannot get away from race, and we cannot get away from lineage.
And I'm going to respond. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm going to respond. You keep contradicting yourself. You keep saying crimes against humanity, genocide, even the horrors of colonization, all considered crimes against humanity. Yet in Namibia, it was only the Nama and Herero people who received reparations. You did not push a harm-based model for them, because technically all Black Namibians suffered like hell under the Germans. What the Germans did to them was awful, but the actual concentration camps was done to the Nama and Herero people. Yeah, you supported specificity for them, and you just said a specific ethnic group, a specific status. That's the same argument we're making here for reparations. It's done based on a specific group. That group are the freemen, and you keep talking about crime-based model. Even if that was something which I told you I could support, but that's a separate matter. That is not reparations. That's a separate matter. If you want to do that, knock yourself out. The reparations, where the eligibility begins, and the emancipation of chattel slavery, the end of the Civil War, that is where the eligibility begins for reparations. That is where it starts. And yes, it encompasses the things of Jim Crow and redlining, but the eligible recipients are people who are the Black American descendants of those who were emancipated by the U.S. at the end of the Civil War. The crime they small, the harm they small. Look at them. I want all people who have been harmed by America to get their due. But reparations is about us getting our due, the debt that we are owed. You recognize that for Namibians, but you don't recognize that for us. Okay? The second thing that I want, I'm sorry. The second thing that I want to mention to you is that if you do it your way and you do make it race by default, because if you say, okay, these harms happen in America, but I'm only going to address the harms that were done to the African, Caribbean, and the Black American people, and that is something that you say can only be done for them, and other people can prove they were harmed by it too, that opens up the door to everyone. And if you say no, it does not, by default, you're making it race-based and it will get shot down. We've seen it. But what I'm saying is that the reparations debt, the eligible recipients are the Black American descendants of the 4.5 million people who were emancipated. That's where it begins. And it's about that debt. If you can recognize that with the Namibians, the Nama and a railroad tribe, you should be able to recognize it for us. Oh,
Okay, Cam, we'll make this your closing argument. Okay, 5 minutes for your closing argument,
Thank
and
you.
then after Marcel.
Thank you. So I came into space knowing that there would be a lot of contention in the movement, contention in regards to eligibility, contention in regards to forms of reparations to take, which should be cash or whether it should be comprehensive, contentions in regards to how we identify ourselves as freedmen or others. I knew that would be the case here. In fact, I took it upon myself to create a national tour to deal with these issues around the contentions in the movement. So I was expecting that. And we spend a lot of time on the contentions and not enough time on the mission. And that mission for all of us, again, no matter what forms we think reparation take, no matter who we think are eligible for reparations, no matter what we think as far as the best legal argument to make our claim for reparations, no matter how we identify ourselves and when we identify ourselves as being American or not being American, none of that matters. None of it matters if we don't get a federal redress bill. None of it matters. We can be arguing in the local spaces, and we saw what happened with California when they argued and argued and argued about eligibility, where they didn't have enough time to complete the mandate of the legislation, which was to craft a master plan of redress for Black Californians. The same way the federal bill is designed to create a master plan of redress for Black Americans, primarily who were descendants of Black people who were enslaved in this country. 95% of any redress on the federal level or better would go to that particular people who hold that identification. We spend too much time with these contentious elements with the movement and not enough time with what we should be unifying around. And what we should be unifying around is a federal commission. I can't not say that enough. That is our mission. We have to stay on mission. We can have these discussions, again, like Brother Cash. I had to raise that young brother up. Very principled discussion around compensation. Very principled. And we can have principled discussions around every form of reparations. We can have principled discussions around eligibility. We didn't have one here because my brother just wanted to attack. That is not going to get us reparations on the federal level. We have to, we must, and we can temper our contentions and focus on the mission. And that is what I'm bringing to this table today, that we can win. We have the power. We have a short window of power. And all of us, no matter if people consider themselves Pan-Africans or American descendants of slavery or whatever, all of us must be connected in building the structure and movement to get this president to act right now. We are the history makers, and we can make history right now. All of us in this space is needed, not to be contentious, but to be laser focused. There's no Republican that's gonna commit any reparations bill. While we're arguing for Biden to craft an executive order, if those think that Republicans do it, argue for the Republicans to pass the bill out of the House right now. Let them show what they can do before the election, because we're demanding that Biden do this before the election if he wants our vote. And that's what we have the power to do. And if we come into these spaces and we only want to be right, we only want to hold on to our contention, I don't care what any of us believe on eligibility, forms reparations to take, or how we identify ourselves. None of it matters if we can't get a federal redress bill. And I am not so against anyone who holds an alternate position than myself. We all have a right to speak on how we should be redressed from the crimes committed against us and our ancestors, my parents, my grandparents, my great grandparents. Everybody that's Black has that right to say how they want to be repaired. And so I'm not going to say your position is worse than my position. You have that right, and I have the right, and now you should respect my right, and I respect your right. We can engage in reparations in this country from a principled position. A lot of young people who got into this movement, unfortunately, came into the movement, and we're so happy and thankful for the brilliance that has been brought into this movement. But many, I'm not going to say a lot, but many came in with a foundation of antagonism and anger. And when you're waking up, anger is part of awakening. And so that's understandable. But we have to move past that now. Our should be on unity. How do we craft unity at this particular historic moment that our ancestors have been waiting for and that we have the power to bring into reality? How do we craft unity right now?
All right, thank you for that, Cam. Marcel, 5 minutes for your closing argument.
I'm sorry, I don't know where you were attacked. First, I actually wrote over the back channel and said that let's not allow anyone to attack anyone. What I've attacked is a is a crucial, critical part of the reparations claim, and that's eligibility. And when it comes to eligibility, which our reparations will either live or die upon after we get that federal legislation, yeah, that's very important. And I'm going to attack that when I know it's not going to work. I've even supported your harm-based model as a separate matter, not for reparations, but as something I can support. Because I feel the American government should heal all the harms they've done to people. But for reparations, it is something specified to those of us of the freedman status, which if you are Black American and you are a descendant of a Black person who was emancipated by the U.S., then you have that freeman status. That is something I'm going to defend vigorously. But I've attacked your arguments. I've never, not once, attacked you. Number two, yeah, I came into this movement with a lot of damn anger, and I still have a lot of anger. And sometimes I am living and breathing and eating and sleeping and just surviving off of pure anger and rage. When I see what's happening to my people, anger can sometimes help you survive. Anger is sometimes necessary for survival. I have other qualities and things too, but yeah, that anger is a crucial moment because we all should be outraged and anger, which I'm sure you are, about the way our people have been treated. Number three, I am all for us getting politically involved. That's why I'm running for office. Even if on some level, I know I'm going against a person who is extremely powerful and who the Democrats would not mind putting $15 to $20 million behind. I am running because I know we can't just work with these candidates. You talk about a Republican will never support reparations. A lot of the Democrats will never support reparations. They signed on to support HR 40, and when they had the damn chance to bring it to the floor, they decided not to. They said it wasn't going to pass. Yeah, it's not going to pass if you're not even bringing up for a vote to have it pass. And by the way, they had the majority then. And even if you don't have the majority of the votes, you go out there and you make deals and you get the vote. I work and speak with Republicans and Democrats, and I'm speaking with the majority of Americans who don't necessarily identify by either party. They identify by what they see is right and what they see is going to benefit them. So I'm making the argument to everyone, those elected and non-elected, about how reparations for the freemen only, but how it will benefit them as well. And we don't have the foresight to say who's going to support, who's not going to support. What we need to do is wake up, be more concerned about what we're going to support. So you never know, because I have spoken at events that are majority extremely conservative white Americans here in Florida, here in South Carolina. And I've gotten a lot of them say, well, I'm really looking at reparations a different way. Does that mean they're going to go and offer up a bail? No. But that is how, if I can do it, me with no resources, why the hell can't the Democrats with millions of dollars and a power to also vote against the things the Republican want, why can't they go to their Republican colleagues and make those same type of initiatives to educate people? They can. They don't because they don't want to. And the fact of the matter that they've had the majority, the presidency, the House, and the Senate, and they could have passed that old funky HR 40 bill, which is pathetic anyway. They could have passed that in the early 90s, and the damn study could have been long done, and they didn't. They're never going to. In Florida, you talk about the Republicans. That Florida Republican who's passing that anti-reparations bill, he has 12 Democrats that signed on with him. It's not a partisan matter. It's about who's for justice and who's not for justice matter. And if those for justice happens to be the Democrats, fine, work with them. And by the way, the Democrats owe us. So even if they do come out and they're really for reparations, they should have done that a long time ago. They're doing what they owe, and they're doing what's right. We do have to get politically involved. We have to either be the candidate or we have to be on the candidate's team. And we have to be phone banking and knocking on doors. That's what I'm about. We have to get those political action committees. And to be very honest, Ms. Howard, the reason we have to do that is so that we don't have groups like Narcan and Kroger being the only voice that speaks for us. Because I have to be honest, what I've seen has been disgusting and despicable. So we definitely need those organizations. We get better representation of what we've been getting from Narcan and Kroger.
Excellent, excellent, excellent. Thank you guys. When I tell you, I don't know about you guys, we got a lot of information and understanding from both sides of these brothers and their stances when it comes to our reparations claim. And they're very passionate about that. What I'm excited for is what's next. So saying that, thank you guys for tuning in for the third edition of the Black American debates and the very last Black American debates for this year. Thank you, Marcel. Thank you so much, Cam, for committing to this and really coming through with your own level of knowledge. And with your own, like, your stance in this fight. I believe that in the future, this reparations movement is absolutely evolving, not even in the future, right now as we speak. And everything that we do right now is going to determine where we're going to end up in the next uh year, or shoot, in the next 10 years. So these conversations and the actions behind these conversations really matter. So we will be pushing forward next month. We're actually going to evolve this conversation even more. There is post conversations that will be taking place. Again, this debate, it is the first time we've ever done this, but it was streamed on every platform, every social media platform. So big ups to the media team. Um, it was so many media teams who are representing that, and I want to shout them out because they have been holding it down on their end. That is Dana with the T, and that's Dana and Judge Joe Brown platform. Dana's platform and Judge Joe Brown platform. We had our sister FBA Goddess platform. We have Debo Lil Sis platform, Black Majority State, and the social funded socially platform. And we also had Inc., who is now on Twitter. I know you guys have been listening to his places, but he held it down on Clubhouse, and April Showers, who came through. So thank you guys for even opening up and sponsoring this third debate. If you are interested in being like a sponsored platform to stream this debate on your platform so that we can get this message out to every platform. Please inbox me, DM me, email me at info@missgiselle.com. Also, guys, please keep this conversation going because so many points were hit today. We have the maker of HR 40, And we have our standing reparations candidate, Marcel Dixon, on the stage, speaking truth to power and the level that we can take this reparation movement on. And now it's up to us to take this information back and like expand on it. Let's see where we can bring this fight. And also, enjoy the rest of your Saturday. We get ready to close out right now. Enjoy your family. Embrace this conversation. Actually, play it back during Christmas when you have your family get together. This is very important for us to get this message out. Again, thank you for my DJ. She means biz, this sister. We actually sit and we really think through the music for the space. And if we need to pause for a little while so that people can get to the space before we get things started, thank you so much for everything that you do. She means biz, with our sound. And also Miss Ish, she was here, she dropped down, wanted to make sure, she hasn't been feeling good anyway, but she has, she did commit to assisting with my as an executor. So a big shout out to her. A big shout out to Net, who is she was actually my fact checker for this space. And I hope that you guys can answer the questions for the polling questions that were raised there, posted on my blackboard. That's going to determine who gets the Copper Crown Award for these debates this week. So definitely tweet out those polls, share it with your friends, family, share the space with your friends and family so that they can hear the direction and the seriousness that we're taking, the serious path that we're taking with our reparations claim. I'm saying that again. Thank you guys, each and every one of you guys, for participating and for tuning in. And we get ready to close out. So she means biz. You know how we like to close it out. Um, reparations.
Yeah, so we actually have two songs that's going to close us out today because one of them demonstrates who we are and what we do when we come together and we are left to our own devices without outside interference. And we want to remind y'all of all the amazing music that we have put down in the catalog of music history for over 60 years. So, first, we're going to close out with You Will Know Black Men United. The voices on this song is absolutely amazing. The spirit in this song is absolutely who we are, right? And the message, don't ever let nobody tell us who we are and what we stand for. We know who we are. And so then we will close out after that with our one of our reparations theme songs. People been asking where's the songs at for reparations. We got them. So you will be introduced if it's your first time.
All right. Thank you, everybody. I appreciate you guys. And I see this on here, the real Dina, and I see it on the Real Judge Brown YouTube. Again, for copyright purposes, I cannot and will not play the music. So actually, let me make this bigger. Yeah. How do you want to answer reparations when your ancestors sold your other ancestors? Blah, blah, blah. Okay. Yeah. So first, let me acknowledge. Thank you, John. Thank you, Marjorie, and thank you, Black Tea, for the super chat. Thank you guys so much. I am going to leave this up. Usually, I put it to members only, but I am going to leave this up because I'm not going to upload another video today. I have to do some pre-recording and some stuff around the house and run some errands. However, I will see you guys tonight, 8 p.m. with me and Steve the Dean. We talk about relationships, right? Logic versus emotions. I think that's the name of our show. Logic of emotions, something else like that. But it's me. Okay, that's my father back watching college football. But tonight, 8 p.m., me and Steve the Dean. So yeah, come back tonight at 8 p.m. and everybody enjoy your Saturday and subscribe to, of course, the YouTube channel, The Real Dana and The Real Judge Joe Brown. Also, go to the website, therealdananetwork.com, and subscribe there as well. It's $10 a month, and that's for Judge Joe Brown to be uncensored. And next week, Thursday, when we do the Man Up show, we're gonna have two special guests. Actually, Cam Howard is supposed to be the guest next week, Thursday, with Judge Joe Brown. So it's not going to be so much of a debate, but more of a discussion. And that's next week, Thursday. So I am going to have Mr. Cam Howard on the Real Dana Network. I mean, not the real on the Real Dana YouTube. I don't think I'm not going to put it on the website because we have to interview someone else before his interview during the show. So that's going to be really good. But either way, guys, I'm gonna drop some videos tomorrow. I will see you guys live tonight at 8 p.m. with Steve the Dean. And have a wonderful, wonderful weekend. Happy holidays. And thank you guys so much for taking the time out listening. I think this was a good day, a good way to start our Saturday, start our weekend. And make sure you go outside and get some sunshine and fresh air and enjoy your holidays and enjoy your weekend. And I'll see you guys tonight, 8 p.m. And that's it. Bye. Love ya. All right. See you later, guys.